Welcome, everyone. We are so very glad that you are here with us today. We are going to be talking about the Stewardship Summer Slump, how to navigate it, what to know about it, how we bring our own stuff into it, all of these things. We're so happy that you're with us today. Your presenters today are myself, Pastor Rebel Hurd, and Pastor Lexi, who is going to introduce herself in a second here. I put the agenda in the chat. Want you to know that there is a coffee break. There are a few breakout sessions. There will be lunch that I would like to have a conversation about how long you would like for lunch. This moved fully online because we had only 3 participants that signed up for the in-person. And to be good stewards of resources, we did not think it was appropriate to ask a congregation to host us and to bring in meal and all these things for a very small group. So we are doing it this way. So for those of you that signed up that way, I thank you for being flexible. And the extra $10 that you paid for in person can be either donated to the Synod or can be sent back to you in a check. And if you responded to me already, great. I haven't heard from 2 of you. So let me know. Let's see, the plan for the day. One thing I want to say is that we're going to start the morning off and we're going to be talking a little bit about how we as individuals and how congregations potentially see, understand, work with money. And so we need to sit in that first before we go into the practical stuff. The afternoon is all going to be practical things. And Pastor Lexi is going to have some practical things in the morning as well. But I did want you to know that first we're going to be really taking some inventory and understanding how we as humans interact with finance, with money, with budgets, those types of things, so that we can understand what we bring into this work that we do and how we teach others and how we potentially just interact with finance. So anyway, are there any questions about the agenda that is in the chat?
Nope.
Okay. If you have any questions, Deacon Erin is going to be running the chat, and she is our guru for all things tech. And so she'll also be running my presentation this afternoon. I'm not sure if she's running yours this morning, Pastor Lexi, but we will go ahead and get started. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Pastor Lexi.
Sounds great. I am way too much of a control freak for anybody to run my slideshow for me. So this is how I go. Thank you for inviting me here. I'm colleagues with all of you. I'm sitting in Fargo in my office that, as you can tell, is incredibly clean. But this is how my life goes. I get really excited about stewardship. I'll give a little bit of background to why I'm excited to be here today, as that's my reason. I graduated from seminary in 2022, and one of my classes that I took toward the end of seminary was called Money and the Mission of the Church with Grace Pomeroy. I'm like, goodness sakes, I've said her name 8,000 times. And so I took this course with her because I was really nervous about talking with my congregation about offering and money. I can be a really excited fundraiser for specific things because I was the youth director and it was always a pretty easy ask. But talking about how we give consistently and why we give was not even in my vocabulary at the time. And so I took this class, and one of the biggest things for me from this class was shifting how I and my stewardship board and my congregation talk about money and talk about stewardship. And that shift has changed everything for me. I've been blessed. I'm in the same congregation as I was during seminary and internship and was able to step in through succession planning. And so we had a lot of trust built, and I knew our stewardship board well. And so we got to build on that. So the things I offer today are things that we have either tried or done something similar to. And so I hope that you are able to receive from that. If you have other questions, I've put a couple notes in of like, definitely ask me about this if you want it, or this would be something you could ask me about. Please reach out. I love talking about stewardship. I will come and talk to your council and be way too excited on not any caffeine because I'm an extrovert. And we can have this conversation about how we change the conversation about stewardship. So a little background about me. With that, I would like to open us with a devotion. And so I'm going to share my screen. Please give grace to the awkward transition. Can everybody see it okay? Awesome. Thanks, Erin. And I like to shift my screen on the side so I can still see people. We'll see how that works with being able to see what I wrote. All right. So our devotion this morning is going to be around one of my favorite stewardship scriptures, which is the parable of the talents. This scripture drives my mentor, Grace Pomeroy, absolutely crazy. It's her least favorite. And so I wanted to step into this very divisive text today as we talk about stewardship, especially in a time where we're not quite sure what the summer looks like and how to address it. So here are some reflecting questions as you are listening to the text. We're going to do a Lectio Divina. I'll have someone read it the first time. We'll take a moment to reflect. We'll read it a second time, and then we'll share openly in the group. So here are the questions I would like you to reflect about as you listen. First, what caught your attention? Second, what surprised, challenged, or made you uncomfortable? And third, would you use this text to talk about stewardship in your congregation? Why or why not? And these questions will be at the end of each. I can't see everybody yet. Can I have a volunteer to read it through the first time? Lynn, thank you. All of you jump in. And then can I have a volunteer to read the second one? I can almost see everybody's hands maybe. Lori, thank you, Rachel. All right, and then Rachel will read the second one. Okay, here we go. Lynn, it's all yours.
For it is as if a man going on a journey summoned his slaves and entrusted his property to them. To one he gave 5 talents, to the other 2, to another 1, to each according to his ability. Then he went away. At once the one who had received the 5 talents went off and traded with them and made 5 more talents. In the same way, the one who had 2 talents made 2 more talents. But the one who had received the 1 talent went off and dug a hole in the ground and hid his master's money. After a long time, the master of those slaves came and settled accounts with them. Then the one who had received the 5 talents came forward, bringing 5 more talents, saying, Master, you handed over me 5 talents. See, I have made 5 more talents. His master said to him, Well done, good and trustworthy slave. You have been trustworthy in a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master. And the one with the 2 talents also came forward, saying, Master, you handed over to me 2 talents. See, I have made 2 more talents. His master said to him, Well done, good and trustworthy slave. You have been trustworthy in a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master. Then the one who would receive the 1 talent also came forward, saying, Master, I knew you were a harsh man, reaping where you did not sow and gathering where you did not scatter. So I was afraid, and I went and I hid your talent in the ground. Here you have what is yours. But his master replied, "You wicked and lazy slave, you knew, didn't you, that I reap where I did not sow and gather where I did not scatter? Then you ought to have invested my money with the bankers, and on my return I would have received what was my own with interest. So take the talent from him and give it to the one with the 10 talents. For to all those who have, more will be given, and they will have an abundance. But from those who have nothing, even what they have will be taken away. So for this worthless slave, throw him into the outer darkness, where there'll be weeping and gnashing of teeth."
Thank you, Lynn. And so you are invited. We'll take about a minute to reflect by yourself. What caught your attention? What surprised, challenged, or made you uncomfortable? And would you use this text to talk about stewardship in your congregation? Why or why not? Rachel, if you will read it again for us, this time from the Message translation.
It's also like a man going off on an extended trip. He called his servants together and delegated responsibilities. To one he gave $5,000, to another 2,000, to a third 1,000, depending on their abilities. Then he left. Right off, the first servant went to work and doubled his master's investment. The second did the same. But the man with the single 1,000 dug a hole and carefully buried his master's money. After a long absence, the master of those 3 servants came back and settled up with them. The one given $5,000 showed him how he had doubled his investment. His master commended him. "Good work. You did your job well. From now on, be my partner." The servant with the 2,000 showed how he had doubled his master's investment. His master commanded him. "Good work. You did well. From now on, be my partner." The servant given 1,000 said, "Master, I know you have high standards and hate careless ways, that you demand the best and make no allowances for error. I was afraid I might disappoint you, so I have found a good hiding place and secured your money. Here it is, safe and sound down to the last cent." The master was furious. "That's a terrible way to live. It's criminal to live cautiously like that. If you knew I was after the best, why did you do less than the least? The least you could have done would have been to invest the sum with the bankers, where at least I would have gotten a little interest. Take the 1,000 and give it to one who risks the most, and get rid of this play it safe who won't go out on a limb. Throw him out into utter darkness."
Thank you, Rachel, especially that you dealt with me flipping between screens quick. So I would like us to reflect with the group, and then I'm going to stop sharing for a second so we can see each other, and I'll lead you through so you still know what the questions are. What caught your attention? What surprised, challenged, or made you feel uncomfortable? And would you use this text to talk about stewardship in your congregation? Why or why not? And I'm going to stop the share so we can all see each other. And I invite you, if you're able to have your screen on, please have your screen on. So I love popcorn, and just shouting out, I'm not gonna pick on you, but if you have something to share, we'll figure it out as we go. But I would love to hear from you. So what caught your attention in this text?
But they were slaves and had to do what the master said no matter what.
Ooh, like it. What else caught your attention?
Actually, it was your opening statements when you talked about how you and Grace differ on using this for stewardship that made me hear it slightly differently.
Yeah. And we'll get into that. So I'm guessing this question will have a little more with it. What challenged you or made you uncomfortable about this text? Because this is where Grace and I differ.
You wicked man.
Yeah, there is no grace for that third person. And Grace dislikes that because she is much more, she is money vigilant. We'll talk later about the Klontz money personality survey. She is money vigilant and I am money avoidant. So I'm like significantly more throw it in the air like confetti than she is. She's very much a saver and a worrier. And so she and I, that's where we hit heads on this one.
The rich get richer and the poor lose everything.
Yeah.
That the amounts were given depending.
Oh, Julie, I'm going to pause you. It like cut out your voice. If you want to say it again.
The amount of money given to each person was not the same, but depended upon abilities.
The amount given to each person initially wasn't dependent on abilities. Yeah. It was just 3 different dudes. Anything else? So here's what I'd like to see, and I invite you to raise your hand so we can just see who agrees with what, and then we'll dive out from there. Raise your hand if you would use this text to talk to your congregation about stewardship. If you would, raise your hand. I have, so I should. Okay. Raise your hand if you would not touch this talking about stewardship with your congregation. Yeah. For those who would, what draws you to it? I ask a lot of questions, so be ready to jump in with me. I'm not good at just talking to myself.
The third person is so my congregation that I'm not sure that it would be taken well.
Yeah. Yeah, that
And
connection.
I'm having the opposite, where my congregation, I think, would hear this, but it's because stewardship is already lifted up and people are always, looking for ways to be in ministry. Having said that, I think the last 2 parishes that I served, I wouldn't for the same reason that was just stated.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Lori.
I had a congregation member tell me once that it's not appropriate for a pastor to speak about money from the pulpit. I'm like, I learned a lot about that at seminary. I didn't tell her that, but that's what I was thinking. So
yeah, Jesus
for
talks a
that
lot
reason,
about
it
money.
might be a little hard.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and how do we meet people where they're at when they feel that way? And I think so often it's because shame comes in. So I'm going to use that and I'm going to transition to this is my this is the way that I look at it. So now you get the Lexi explaining of it. So here is why I hear it through a lens of stewardship. And I got to move my screen a little bit so I can see what I wrote. All right. So the reason I like this text is how we talk about stewardship matters. The words that we use matter. The way that we talk about stewardship matters. And so we can see that difference between the first two slaves and the last one. And part of how we talk about stewardship is also how we talk about God. The first two, when they were given this money or entrusted with this money, they went out and immediately started investing it. We don't know if they were worried about investing or if they already had a history of being good with investing, but their first movement when they had this money was, let's go and let's see what we can do with this. The last person had an image of the master that was not one of grace and benevolence and inviting in. It was fear. It was this belief. When we go back and he says, the servant said, "Master, I know you have high standards and hate careless ways, and that you demand the best and make no allowances for error." Sounds a lot like the version of God that some people walk into our worship spaces with. And so we have this last person with this high image of God where there is no grace. And so there is fear about not using the gifts they've been entrusted with well, losing it, not living up to the potential. And that fear paralyzes rather than encourages to expand and grow and trust. And so the way that we talk about God and when we talk about stewardship really matters. The God that we help people understand, the God of love, the God of grace, that God needs to be present in every single stewardship conversation because money already carries a boatload of shame with it. Lori, you brought this up. You had a congregation member who, just from that comment, my brain immediately went, yeah, because that person has shame about money. And that's their thing. That's the thing when the rich man goes up to Jesus and says, I follow all the 10 commandments. And Jesus is wonderful. Sell everything and go and follow me and live with the poor. And the man walks away because that's the thing for him. That's where the shame is at. That's the trust and that's the fear and the thing that pulls us in to this scarcity mindset. And so if we use shame when we are talking about money, we get a shame-filled giving in response. And I can share, there's an example I heard from another pastor of they were coming into a congregation and the pastor before them offered to, it was a very quick transition. They knew each other and it worked out. And the pastor before them offered to send out a letter because this new pastor was coming into a large debt that the church had. It was a sweep loan. And the pastor had so much guilt about retiring with this sweep loan at this high balance that they offered to send out a letter to the congregation saying, as a retirement gift to me, would you give extra to the sweep loan so that we don't begin this new chapter with this hanging over us? And the new pastor said, absolutely not. Because when we ask for gifts through shame or shaming people or leaning in to that sin, because it is a sin, we are not building a responsive giving that is sustainable at all. And so we can talk about giving in a way that guilts people. We can say that, giving over the summer goes down. And so we need you to give more because we need this. And that can work for a couple weeks, but it does not build a culture of stewardship. And so instead, listening to the words that the master used for the first two in that first reading of enter into my joy. If we use joy-filled language, if we use joy-filled giving and ask how that joy can become a part of our stewardship, we not only build more consistent giving, because it makes itself into a practice, it answers the why of why we give, and it becomes not just an ask constantly. It becomes a part of people's faith practice. Why do I give to my church? What does my offering do that I feel strongly about? And so how we build this conversation matters, because as we can see in this parable, it truly affects how people respond to the gifts that God has entrusted to them. And you might notice that I'm using the word entrusted rather than given, because the word given implies that God has given us money, talents, skills, time, and says, all right, it's yours, do whatever. And so then we get into the, oh, well, I can give 10% of mine back to the church, or 5% of mine back, or 1%, but then the rest is mine. The word entrusted leans back into the Psalms of everything in the world is the Lord's, all of it in it. And so it's not only the things that we give back to the church that reflect our stewardship of what God has entrusted to us. God has trusted us with our lives, with our time, with our skills and our talents and the money that we have to expand and join in this gift of creation, to be partners in it. Not to be fearful that we're doing the exact right thing and following everything right and getting scared, so we just pull into ourselves. And so I like to use the word entrusted because it applies to everything in our life then, not just what we decide to give back to the church. And it's a helpful way for congregations to start talking about money in a new way. Let us pray. Good and loving God, we thank you for the gift of gathering together today in this Zoom space. God, you have entrusted us with many wonderful things, and especially entrusted us as leaders in your church. And so today, as we talk about stewardship, and as we look forward to our summer stewardship, let us look forward in joy. Let us ask good and difficult questions so that we may steward the gifts that you have entrusted to us well. We give you thanks for all of these things. In your holy name, amen. All right, transitioning into the meat. Here we go. So I was telling Deacon Aaron, I normally just give presentations on narrative budgets. So this is fun. So if I go off on the narrative budget one and you want to hear more, then you've got the 2 ears that you can speak into, and I will gladly come back and give you all the narrative budget things. So giving your summer giving a little kick. Here's some practical ideas to try out this summer. And we'll talk for about 25 minutes and then a break at 11. So my clock is way over here. And if I keep going, please flag me down because I get excited. Here we go. I will also say, if you have questions along the way, I will have time at the end, but I know that when a question pops into my head, sometimes it's hard for it to stay there. So if you have a question and you want to just come and interrupt me, go for it. As I can jump back on. Don't worry about me. But if you have a question along the way, please throw it in. Deacon Aaron, if it ends up in the chat, can you just flag me? Sweet. You're at the top of my screen right now, so that works well. Here we go. How can you add joy and therefore trust and abundance to your offering during the summer? So if we look at this same story of the parable of the talents, the thing that those first 2 had was trust in their master. The master entrusted things to them, and they trusted that the master trusted them. How many times can I use trust in a sentence? But they also knew that their master was abundant, that they would share, that they would encourage them. They had this idea of who their master was, and they were proven right, because we know about God, that God is loving and grace-filled and is going to invite us in, and also know that we are incredibly human, all at the same time. And so how can we build that into our offering this summer? That expanded image of a benevolent God, even when it comes to the really difficult conversations around money. So I want to show you a video from my congregation. And it's going to lead into the first thing I'm going to share. But this is what offering looks and sounds like in my congregation. And I want you to pay attention to what you hear and what you see. So fingers crossed that it works. I'm going to play it one more time. And I wish I could pause it because Elaine right there has the biggest smile on her face ever. My favorite part of the video, and I couldn't figure out how to pause it in time. This is what I mean when I say that offering can be the most joy-filled part of the service. If you ask people in my congregation, one of the most joyful parts of our service is offering. And I know that that is not normal. So here's the story of how that happened at Bethlehem. We started a noisy offering for kids. Now, the whole goal of it was to have teach kids about giving offering. We started this about 4 years ago because we weren't doing their offering envelopes during Christian Ed Sunday school anymore. And so I was like, oh, my parents' church does like a basket or a little house thing that kids can put it in. I'll go and find one and get it. So we had kids bringing up their noisy offering, their change, their little envelopes, whatever they wanted to, and gave them this, I think it was a $500 project. And we were donating it to one of the local nonprofits. I think it was split between For Love of Dog Rescue and Cat's Cradle Rescue. We picked a nonprofit, and then we decided that's what their offering was going to go toward. And my thought was, oh, a $500 goal is going to last us through the whole year, bringing in like $10 a week or something. Perfect. This will be a great goal for them. Teach them about giving. It'll be wonderful. We get about a month in, and Emerson, who is an autistic little 8-year-old that we have in our congregation, was about 4 or 5 then. And our most curmudgeonly man named Vern saw Emerson walking up with his dollar bill, and he went, he looks like he's having fun. I want to give Emerson a dollar bill. And so Vern, from his pew, hands Emerson a dollar bill to bring up into the noisy offering. Well, then the next week, people saw how fun it was for Vern to give $1 to Emerson and bring it up. And so without me saying anything, all of a sudden, our adults started giving dollar bills to these kids walking up for noisy offering because it was so much fun. At the same time, we still were keeping our offering in the back of the sanctuary at the doors. We were not passing a plate yet because we were still doing that from COVID. And one of my big things with my board is I said, we are not going to bring back passing the plate until it can be done joyfully. Because prior to COVID, we had just started doing online giving, and there were people who felt like they were being so judged when they were giving online and not putting a physical thing into the plate, that we got these little chips that people could put into the plate to show they were giving online. And that seemed so unhealthy to me. And so I said, until the day where we can get past that and not judging one another or feeling like we're being judged, I'm not bringing the plates back. We're not going to guilt people into giving. And so all of a sudden, these adults start passing money to kids. They had already put their offering in at the door, but they were passing money to the kids because that was fun. Then we had kids coming up to the front, literally carrying money in giant stacks like this, because I refuse to give them baskets either. I'm not institutionalizing this whatsoever. And this noisy offering that was supposed to be a $500 goal for the kids for the entire year now brings in over $200 a week, because people in our congregation get so excited about handing money to these kids walking around. I will also say that when we don't have kids in worship, because that happens on Sundays, then we have adults. who are very kid-like, who enjoy then going around and they pick up the noisy offering. And we always make a joke about, well, I understand why that person stood up and thought they were like a kid. But there's the same level of joy of these older adults walking around working toward this goal. We have shifted it now where we have a couple different goals running. We have a goal for local nonprofit, or right now we're helping a girl in Cameroon that we're connected with go to college because she wants to become a pastor. And so we're helping pay for her college expenses. And at the same time, every first and third week, we are collecting money for the interest on one of our loans to keep that down. And so we've used this as a way to support places outside of us and our own needs in the church. And we've raised money for so many different things through the last 4 years that we've been doing this. And so one of the easiest things that you could do this summer is host a noisy or special offering as a goal for the summer. Most people are going to bring their regular offering and the special offering. Most times you do not lose out on your regular offering, but it is this excitement built for a specific goal that brings people into more giving. And so what is a fun or attainable and meaningful goal that your congregation could meet this summer? Maybe it is for a nonprofit in your area that aligns really closely with your church's mission or that you work with. Or it might be you have a heater that needs to get fixed before winter starts. And the goal for the noisy offering is to raise the money to fix the heater or to do a specific visible project around your church. But what is something specific that you can add in this joy-filled way of giving into the worship service to help meet that need? Giving begets more giving, and money follows mission. So I think I said most of these things. But on top of all of this, one of the things that I have noticed I've done more work with Grace Pomeroy on churches and stewardship and giving, is that benevolence and churches giving outside of themselves and tithing is one of the key signs of a healthy church. Much like that last servant, when our churches get to a place where we are sucking into ourselves, where we are worried that we won't have enough, we're worried and trying to hold on as tightly as we can to that one thing that we have or what is ours or what we believe someone will be upset with us about, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't go anywhere. Rather than trusting that our master is going to give us what we need, our master is going to supply us and entrust with us. As we give, we will also receive. I'm trying to not sound prosperity gospel with this, but it is something where it always seems like when churches are giving, more just shows up because money follows mission. People want to be a part of something that gives, that makes a difference. And so even when you're talking about your congregation and talking about funding things in your congregation, how can you talk about it in a way that shows the impact that it has? And I'll get to that later with narrative budgets. But think of your own congregation. How would you make this collection set apart from the regular plate passing? You can do it in the way that we do it with kids. You could even give them buckets to hold things in. I just don't because it's theirs and I'm not touching it. But are there fun like tin cans that are going to make a lot of noise that your kids could collect it in? I tell adults when I would do noisy offerings for a vacation Bible school, I would tell people, if you take a $20 bill and you crumple it up really tight and throw it in, it'll make noise. I promise. And then I'd be sitting after worship uncrumpling $20 bills. And I wasn't upset about it. I was talking Monday night with one of our connections with this church in Cameroon who was visiting, and we got onto the topic of offering. And he was sharing that during their worship service, When people bring their offering in, they actually dance their offering to the front. So the person bringing their offering to the altar dances all of the way. Now, we are all good Lutherans, and I know that will not happen. But is there a sort of procession that can be a part of it? Is there a song that brings joy to your congregation that you can implement as part of this time? We use the song "We Are an Offering," which is in the ELW, and people really enjoy it. It kind of hammers down the point. But finding ways to integrate joy into that giving time is one way to make that step. Then we can also work on changing the conversation about giving. So what happens when our church helps us reflect on and explore our own intersection of faith and money, rather than just asking us for it? What are ways that we as congregations can support the financial health of the people in our pews? And rather than just asking for money, teach people and help people align their giving and their spending with what they truly want to do. That was one of the big things for me when I took that money and the mission of the church class, is I finally had an excuse to sit down with my budget and say, what are the things that I actually want to give toward? What do I truly want to do with my money? And how can I intentionally support that? And I realized by doing that I could actually tithe, which was crazy. I was in seminary and I was still able to tithe because of the way that I approached my own giving and what I wanted to do with my money. And so it will help the person you were talking about, Lori. It wouldn't be from the pulpit, so you can talk about money outside of that. But what are ways that we can support our congregants to be able to use the money that they have been entrusted with in the way that matches what their heart wants, how they wish that they could give? And so some of the things that you could do is hosting a Bible study throughout the summer that digs deeper into money and faith. What are ways that you can have these conversations about money in church and help people explore that intersection without it being directly related to an ask? Here's some options that you can go off of. Faith Lead Stewardship puts out, Grace Pomeroy runs that. You're going to hear Grace's name a lot today. She's my mentor. I talk about her all the time. But they put out articles weekly that would be wonderful conversations. That's free. You can just sign up for the emails or look on the Faith Lead website. There's also a course on Faith Lead that my congregation was a part of testing out, so I have experienced all these, called Beyond the Tithe, Faith and Money Practices. This is not talking about giving to the church. This is talking about how we intersect our faith and our money and how those two things collide in our lives. And what does it look like to have a more faithful view of money? This would be something, Lori, that would help that person that got nervous about the pastor talking about money from the pulpit. And it's a 10-module course on how our money and faith intersect. That I think it was like $50 for the personal one if you didn't have Faith Lead, and like $250 for a group one. But I think with Faith Lead, you get access to those things. So, and then finally, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but do a money autobiography with your congregation. I have one that I would gladly share that I, again, got from Grace, but it's walking through what your past with money has been, what your present with money is, and what you hope for your future with money, and helps people kind of see that through line of how it connects. I use this also with premarital, just throwing that out there. It's a helpful conversation. But sharing what our past with money looks like so that we can understand why people give in the way that they do and help people understand why they give in the way that they do. Also taking the Klontz Money Personalities Quiz is super helpful, and there's some wonderful YouTube videos online about it too that help go through the results more. But that's another helpful way to look at what are the money personalities in your congregation? That person who is constantly asking you about the debt and being worried about it is probably very money vigilant. But helping people understand how they look at money, that applies not only to their personal lives, but how they interact with money in the congregation. And so hosting these conversations would be a wonderful way to jump in and be a part of that. Or
Lexi,
yeah,
I just dropped a link in the chat as well. Yes. It's the council devotions we put out last August.
Yes,
but it's a 9-part series on stewardship that has kids activities as well. That could be a summer sermon series. That hint is conversation based, so could also be lay led if you happen to be on vacation.
Yes. And my congregation has been using those for our board devotions all throughout the year. So I've had really great feedback on that, by the way. Deacon Aaron, I didn't tell you that. They've enjoyed them. So
Deacon Aaron?
Yes.
Yeah. We have a question of, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, Lexi, can I take 1 minute and screen share?
Please do. I'm going to be done after narrative budgets and we'll take our break. So
okay, do narrative budget and then I'll screen share and come back to it. Let's do that.
Okay, fantastic. Here's the last one that would be a fun project for the summer is narrative budgets. Narrative budgets are a wonderful way to celebrate and lift up all of the amazing things your congregants offering help support in the church. Putting together a team or using an already functioning stewardship board and building it over the summer would be a wonderful use of time. It is a great way to wrap up your church's program year. You can look at what you did from the summer before until May, and then give members time to explore the budget and ask how it lines up with your church's mission. On the opposite side of the year, not one, that's a mistype, on the opposite side of the year from many of our annual budget meetings. Narrative budgets are a great way to change the conversation because they are a celebration of what your church is doing. And they're a really clear way of showing people exactly what their offering is going toward. It is not just, we need your offering to keep the lights on. It is, we have an AA group that meets in our church and they get to have a well-lit, temperature-controlled space that is comfortable so that people can come and receive the care that they need. And that's why we keep the lights on. Or we keep the lights on at the church and it well lit because Susan, who is 98 years old, has difficulty seeing the stairs and needs to have lights on so that she can safely make it down to the basement and have coffee with her friends after church because it's the only time that she gets out of her house. It's telling the story of why you give and taking the time in the summer to even have a congregation-wide conversation about what are those stories that your budget is sharing. And this is another one. It is a specialty of mine and I would love to help. So if you are interested in narrative budgets, talk to me. All right, I will stop sharing and we'll take, I think that's the, yes.
Let's just take a few seconds here, if you wouldn't mind, Pastor Lexi. I'm wondering if there are folks that use narrative budgets. If so, please raise your hand. Okay.
Awesome, Lynn.
So, great job, Lynn. So what I want to do is just pause for a minute because I think that your two examples were fantastic. And I also think that a lot of people maybe don't know much about narrative budgeting. And I wonder if people have any questions about that, or if you would like a little bit bigger, just a 3-minute example or discussion on that. So unmute yourself and speak if you would. Marilyn's nodding and not
isn't
speaking.
Enough to do it.
I was going to say,
a session just on narrative budgets, I think.
Yes,
Yeah.
And we have one. There is a recording. We have a recording on narrative budgets that you can go to. And so that's important. I just don't want to leave this dangling out there that they talked about something and now we're wondering and we don't know anything. So Lynn, Pastor Lynn, would you mind giving one example that you use in your narrative budget to describe something? I will give one first so that you can think about it. Okay? All right. I love what Pastor Lexi said about the keeping the lights on. So I want to give an example about temperature. Okay. We keep the church at this temperature, and it costs us this much for heating and cooling because there are people in our congregation who have autoimmune diseases that require this temperature for their body to function. And if it does not function, they are not coming to worship. They are no longer giving the $700 that they give a month. They are going to worship online in their home, which is good too, but they're never going to be able to step into that. So there are things that we know about our congregations that other people don't know about the actual members of our congregations, about the way that we make decisions that allow space for people to feel comfortable and able to enter that. Would we ever mention that person? No, we would never say their name. I know that you have good boundaries and you do not need to be reminded of that, but I will just note it. If there are, say there's a construction project that needs to be done, we're not going to say we're going to do this construction project because we need ADA regulations met. We're going to say we're going to do this construction project because we have 11 beloveds who are in our church that need to be able to enter in this church and worship with us, because they, just like you, need to be able to have safety and need to be able to make it possible for them to be the children of God with us at First Lutheran Church. And it matters. That is a narrative budget. It is not about simply the numbers, but it is about the humans that are connected with the numbers. And if we cannot tell that story, we might as well not even have a budget. Go ahead, Pastor Lynn.
One of the things that we would do, so we have a gorgeous building, and every Wednesday we're invaded by a slew of students, and they have, we call it waffle worship, and they are here for our Wednesday Sunday school. And it's important for us to continue to do that because I would say 2/3 of them are not part of our church. So it is an outreach program that allows school-age kids to be able to become comfortable being in a church and enjoying fellowship and love. So that's one way, not the most eloquent. And the other thing we do is we put in charts, because most people are not numbers people. And so we use like pie charts and graphs, and people get a lot more out of that.
Rebel, I can share quick. I have one of ours.
I'm going to show you in not a share my screen, but an old fashioned. So I have been hearing a lot about people are really annoyed that they have to read a 4-page Synod Assembly report. And people just don't, they don't want to do the extra work. So this is my Synod Assembly report in pictures and numbers. And I'm like, okay, whatever it is that we need to do to get people past whatever the fears are, whatever the time constraints are, whatever the things, it does not matter. And money is the same. I mean, we have to enter into this in as many unique opportunities to tell the story about why it matters that people give to the church. And sometimes it's not how we've always done it. Mm-hmm. Okay, Pastor Lexi, back to you.
I was going to say, I can share really quick. I have one of ours pulled up so you can see it in real life. This is our narrative budget from a couple of years ago, 2024. So there's the pie charts, as you talked about, Lynn. So we have an introduction page, our total budget for the year, pictures of things that have happened and the ministry happening here. And then this was one I had a talk with an adjunct professor at Yale Divinity School because he wanted to know how I did this, how I put together a pie chart. And I was like, that's it? That's the part of this you want to know about? But they do really come across well. And so pulling out, we put ours into 3 different pillars. And so one of our pillars is belong. It has to do with all the things happening in our church building and taking care of our church building. I have an outside the offering plate, how people are doing things that aren't money related. Believe is word and sacrament and service to church and community through education. What we do in our church in that way. And then befriend is our outreach. So what does our outreach look like? And how much are we spending on that? And then I always end it with a, so what's next, and ways that people can support Bethlehem. But it's a very fast idea of what narrative budgets can look like. All right, I'll turn it over to Deacon Aaron, and then we can take our break.
So this was the devotional resource that could be a summer sermon series that I talked about. Let me go here, and I'll draw. And so it is. It's on our website. It's called Grace Upon Grace, and so it has a scripture connection, an introduction, an individual reflection activity, an all ages activity, and a congregational story guide. So the idea is that at the end you have a congregational collected story of your own stewardship story. So for example, what is stewardship is story 1. So you read Genesis 1, the story of creation. There's an individual activity reflection. There's a time for congregational reflection. And that is what it is. So it could be a sermon series or Bible study. And it is, let's see if I can find the other page that, so there's the devotion guide, there's the individual reflection journey, there's the congregational story, and the all ages activities are all on our website.
And even if you are a Northwestern Minnesota Synod person, you can go to Eastern North Dakota's website, because Deacon Aaron and we share all of our resources. And so feel free to bounce back and forth. And yeah, it's great.
Welcome back, everybody. So I'm going to jump in and talk a little bit more about, we've talked about ways that you can have, a special offering, talking about stewardship more outside of worship. And I want to talk about bringing stewardship a little bit more into worship. So I will share my screen again. All right. So stewardship in unexpected places. The more that we talk about stewardship outside of the annual ask, which we know that people always dread, or the we need money now conversation, the more comfortable people get hearing about it. Are there ways that we can inject stewardship into sermons or worship throughout the summer? And I think of, I'm trying to train, I have a new little 7-month-old kitten, and I'm trying to train him to enjoy to go on adventures with me. But one of his first adventures was to go to the vet to get neutered. And so if going to the vet is the only time he ever gets in my car, he's not going to think getting in the car is fun. And so I'm trying to train him to be able to go with me places. And so the other week we got in the car and we went to the pet store, and he got to just be on his harness and go around with me. And last weekend he went to the kickball games with me out at the field and got to meet other people. And so I'm trying to show him that even though the car can go to the vet, it also is something that can go and do fun things. And there are different ways to experience it. And so talking about stewardship frequently, and again with that joy, and not always with an ask, helps your congregation, helps people that get nervous around that to be able to understand that asking for money isn't the only way we talk about stewardship. Because stewardship is way more than that. Stewardship is the way that we care for and invest what God has entrusted to us. And so, talking about stewardship during the offering, these are things that I put into all of my worship services. But if you want to really put an extra focus on stewardship in your congregation this summer, and it's not already happening, these are some practical ways that you can do it. Having slides or bulletin blurbs highlighting the impacts of giving to the mission of the church. So as we were talking about narrative budgets, I also have a weekly slide. Every single week, I highlight one of our line items and connect it back to our mission and say, thank you for giving to this. Here is the impact that you are making. And it can be things like utilities that we know that we need. And it can also be stuff like payroll taxes that people don't get excited about, but are an important part of having staff that can care for them well. And so highlighting those needs and saying, this is the work you're already doing. If you're wondering what your giving is and goes toward, this is the impact that it's making. Verbally thanking people for all the different forms of giving and highlighting people who you have witnessed and specifically naming how they have shown stewardship outside of the plate. We always need to expand the way that we talk to people about how they share their gifts, because not everyone in our congregations can give monetarily. And that builds into that same shame conversation. We have people who still think if they don't give to the church, they're not going to be a member anymore, or at least we do at my church. And I'm like, well, you're kind of stuck with us. So unless you tell me differently. But naming those places outside of the plate that you see people giving. I know that our accompanist is playing along with that song. And right before we have our offering, in between the sermon and the offering, there is a piece of reflective music that we started during COVID and we just love having instead of a hymn. And so many times, if that reflective music is especially moving and wonderful, I will highlight thank you to our accompanist, Alvina, for sharing with us that gift of special music, for sharing the gifts that God entrusted to you for the sake of glorifying God here. Or I saw when Kathy walked in, she brought 2 full bags of groceries to put on our food shelf. And I want to thank you for doing that. Or I saw Vern outside shoveling the sidewalk so that people could get in safely and make sure that we had salt on it and that people could make it into the building without having to be asked. Because you can have as much money as you want, but if there's no butts in the pews, the money is worthless. And so people being there, even just sharing their time, especially if you have families and young parents who are definitely making a concerted effort to be there, thank them. Thank them publicly. Thank them specifically. It's a wonderful way to just do a quick acknowledgement, and it makes a really big difference. It also does not have to be long. Don't make it long. Make it really short. I think my blurb is, I've just about said the same thing because I've said it so many times now of, this is the point in the service where we give thanks for all the gifts you share with this congregation, your time, your energy, your talent, your skills, and your monetary offering. And so today, here's where the noisy offering's going to. You'll see people walking around with plates. That goes to the mission of this place, helping us do the things that make us us and make a difference in our community. So if you want to give to our general fund, it goes in the plates. If you want to give to the noisy offering, there are people walking around. Let us give thanks. And that's all the longer it is. But building a vocabulary of stewardship, having people hear those words over and over and over again, connected to this joy-filled stewardship time, helps build this new culture of what does giving look like when it is done joyfully. Can you sprinkle in some stewardship into your sermon without outright making the whole sermon about stewardship, or without directly asking people for money or making people feel like they need to give more? Especially if you have people worshiping online from the lake in the summer, talking about stewardship so it stays on their radar. They're still a part of your congregation. So what does stewardship look like from the boat or the camper or the minivan? Can you lift that up? If you're, I know some congregations live stream worship. And so if you're live streaming, invite in the people that are watching online and saying, you can go to our website and click the donate button. You can send in your offering to this address. Here's ways that you can continue to give to the mission that's still going on at this place that you love while you are going and resting. But inviting people in specifically, and again, peppering it through the whole thing. So here's a little breakout that I would like to do to get some creative juices going. Aaron, I watched how your face realized exactly what I was about to ask you. So what I would like you to do is pick out one of these weeks for the summer. And I'm realizing you're not going to have access to this slide when we break out. So write down on a piece of paper. They're all from Matthew, if that helps you. Write down one of the texts for this summer. I put the dates on there in case you already know what your vacation days are and then you're not doing work for a week that you're gone. And then with your partner, we're going to separate out for about 10 minutes and read through your scripture. And then what is some way that you could integrate stewardship into that? Either a way that someone in the text is giving of their time, energy, talent, skills, money, or are there ways that can reflect what stewardship looks like in your congregation? But be as creative as you would like to be. You might have to stretch it quite far. But how would you use this text to talk about an aspect of stewardship? Are there any questions with this? Okay, did everybody get scripture text written down?
And Paul, are you back? Are you still talking with a visitor? I'm going to wait 1 minute to see if he responds. All right, we'll have one group of 3.
Sounds great. Thank you, Deacon Aaron.
So your breakout room should be open. You should be able to join. Everyone is back.
There we go.
You just
Welcome. So what I'd like to do is to take some time to share out, get some ideas from one another. What was either give like the gist of your text, and then what was something that you found how to connect with, or were you like, this is terrible and I couldn't find anything? And that's a valid answer too, because you had 10 minutes and I know how long exegesis takes. So our first room, First Lutheran and Alex and Lori, if you'd like to share what you heard from each other. What came out of your conversations? Oh, First Lutheran and Alex and Lori.
We had Matthew 10:24 through 39. It's the scripture about how following Jesus you may have, let's see here. It talks a lot about fear in here, and if you follow Jesus, your family may not agree, and it may turn you against father, mother, daughter, and daughter-in-law, etc. And one of the parts of the verses was, aren't 2 sparrows sold for a small coin, but not one of them will fall to the ground without your father knowing about it already. Even the hairs on your head are counted. Don't be afraid. You are worth more than many sparrows. So we talked about scarcity and fear in this. And I don't know if the rest of you want to share more about that.
Yeah, we did talk about that and how it's hard for us to get rid of that mindset in our brains and how it definitely can control us in our if we don't have enough or don't feel like we have enough, we are hesitant to share more and trust. Yeah.
Absolutely. I also think of at the beginning you were talking about like you will be against father and mother and brother. And how many of us who are pastors in the room have done funerals where the will part gets really messy, or the funeral is uncomfortable because people get pulled into that power of money, and all of a sudden it causes us to forget. And so what does having money in a good, healthy place mean for us as people of God? Because we are all worthwhile.
Yes.
Thank you. That was lovely.
It's a
All
hard
right.
text,
Yeah.
but we like also lifted up that this is an important time to name that sometimes a text isn't intended to be how it should be or how God wants it to be, but it's naming the realities that people find themselves in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. All right. Julie and Rachel and Marilyn, what came out of your conversations?
Well, we had Matthew chapter 11, verses 16 through 19, and then 25 through 30. 25 through 30 was the Father revealed in the Son. We really focused on that, especially verses 28 through 30. The come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. I think money in itself is it brings weariness and burdens and the lack of or the opposite, and just the reminder that trusting in Jesus and that bringing us that peace and the calm for our souls when it comes to stewardship. And also we discussed when the church unites with Christ in stewardship, that yoke is easy, and leaning on God makes that burden light, and God will provide. And just
You just gave me goosebumps, and I call them Holy Spirit goosebumps from head to toe. So let me just say that preaches. That is something that I think everyone could hear. And wow, that was beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Marilyn, anything you want to add in from the conversation?
I just kind of emphasized a little bit more the yoke, where if Christ and the church are together, the burden is light and it's easier going.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, what does it mean to have Christ sharing the burden with us in all of our financial decisions, in our financial decisions as people, and our financial decisions as a church, and making sure that burden is evenly carried and that both of those voices hold weight and not strongly one or strongly the other.
And I think that humble in heart is huge when talking about money. Humility is so important when discussing that.
Absolutely. Beautiful. Thank you. Room number 3, Lynn and Pastor Penny.
We looked at, and Lynn, you feel free to jump in here because this was her scripture that she chose. And whoops, I can't get to the right page here. There we go.
Matthew 9.
It was Matthew 9 through 13 and 18 through 26. And it's begins with Jesus being criticized for being with tax collectors and sinners. And then it goes into the woman who is bleeding and touched the hem of Jesus' gown, and then the girl's life being restored. So it's not your typical stewardship passage, but there are lots of places that we've found that can be stewardship related. Lynn, do you want to jump in on some of your thoughts?
Yeah, like Matthew used his resources to invite Jesus and the other disciples and other tax collectors. And being a disciple is using his own personal resources. So there's stewardship there. I think the woman hemorrhaging, her faith was, she was stewarding her faith by really going against a lot of grains to touch Jesus's cloak. I think that, Jesus carried out and was a good steward of the gospel by going to the synagogue leader's home and in using his resources to show love for possibly a group of people who were criticizing him, and then bringing the daughter back to life. And we talked a little bit about how we can't do miracles like Jesus does, but there's something about using our stewardship of our talents together can create miracles.
If it's okay for me to just chime in a little bit on this. This is one of my favorite texts to use for stewardship, and it seems like such an odd one. But the part that I love is that the 10% of our churches are run, or I should say, our churches are run by 10% of the people, right? And so we have to talk about time and stewardship of time. And in this text, I love that Jesus was on his way somewhere. Jesus was really needing to get there before someone died, right? But Jesus stopped, paused, turned around, and tended to the woman, did not hurry on his way. And stewardship of time and stewardship of connection and learning and listening and actually being present with people is missing so much today. And that is something to steward as well. Thank you for the point of order there that I should.
Thank you so much. I hope you're all taking notes or leaning on the recording. Marianne and St. Olaf at Devil's Lake, what did you talk about?
Go ahead, Marianne.
Yeah, Marianne, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, we talked about Matthew chapter, what was it, 9?
We did the same one as the last group did.
Yeah.
Cool.
And
one of the things that we kind of focused on was the relation of when you're sick, you don't go to the doctor. You go to the doctor when you are sick. So we talked about giving at that point when funds are flowing through fine, you aren't in hardship. It's so much easier to be able to give and give healthy versus when you hit that hardship, the pennies become a lot tighter and we conserve our energy much more at that. So just even letting them know that, and the congregation know, everybody know, it's okay. You can give what you can give and you're not judged for that. We did kind of start looking at the correlation with Jesus and the taxpayer or the tax collectors at the end, and kind of ran out of time at that point. But yeah, it was really nice to see how we kind of all look a little bit differently at the same scriptures.
And another thing that a person can do is highlight the woman who was healed, her gratitude, and we give out of a gratitude of all the things that we have, and not out of force.
Absolutely. That is a huge, huge thing to invite your congregation into. It's a practice of grace as well, right? Our actions that we do are not a transaction to receive God's grace, but they are a response to God's grace. And so our offering is the same thing. Our offering is not a transaction to receive this beloved community and be able to be a part of it. It is a response to our beloved community. and the ways that we continue to support and be present for one another. And so it's gratitude, it's grace, it's being present with one another and celebrating that. So thank you. All right, Zion and War Road, what stuck out for you? Where did you go with this?
We were looking a little bit at the end of chapter 9 and chapter 10. The harvest is great, the laborers are few, and the 12 apostles. Deb, did you want to share a little bit about that?
I don't quite know.
But well, I think we were drawn to the harvest image as an image of abundance, and Jesus is going around to all the cities and the villages, and everybody is included. That goes into the call of the apostles and then the mission of the 12. Some verses really stuck out at me, like you received without payment, give without payment. These images of inclusion, going out and operating out of abundance, not scarcity, and out of inclusion, not exclusion, came through very powerfully in those readings.
Absolutely.
Mike, did you have anything to add?
No, that sounds good.
That text reminds me of, and I don't remember which stewardship presentation I went to, but they were talking about the different types of giving that people do, where it's like giving from your income, giving from your assets, and then giving like end of life giving. And the church does a really good job of receiving, as a nonprofit, receiving like gifts from people's income, right? That's how we usually see it, but does not do a good job at gifts that come from people's assets or from end of life, and asking and talking about those things. And that is where many people have a lot of their stewardship abilities, right? We don't have much now, but life insurance policies or things that get paid out after the end of our lives. And that lines up with that. The harvest is plenty, but the laborers are few. And sometimes it's just bringing that up to people. Like, are the things that are meaningful to you, is this church part of the legacy that you want to leave? And not saying you have to, but sometimes people don't think about that. And using that text maybe as a thing to highlight during the offering. If you give a different sermon during your message time, but then during the offering, say, here's another way we can look at this. Have you ever thought about it? If you want to learn more, here's the person in our congregation that knows about it. And giving people a wider understanding of what giving can look like with what they have been entrusted with, and not what the person next to them has. Mm-hmm. Thank you for entertaining me with this little side project. Go, Pastor Rebel.
Yes, I just was recognizing that not everybody in the room are rostered leaders, right? We have lay people here too. And I wonder what it would look like if, while the preacher is preaching, that the preacher invited maybe your partner in crime on this day to come up and give their 2 cents, their thoughts on what it was that you're preaching on. Because you just experienced that we all took a different lens, right? And so the people in the pews also have different lenses. So just something to invite maybe a new way to do it.
Yes. And thank you, Pastor Rebel, for making sure that we address everybody in the room. I apologize if my language was exclusionary. I'll hand the microphone to anybody in my congregation. So. All right, we continue on to kind of our last little bit here. Okay, make this small so I can see again. All right. The absolute most helpful move that you can do this summer for giving is making sure your giving is accessible for people who are not there in person. And truly, you can do all of these things for in-person worship. But if you're not inviting in the people that aren't there in the summer and giving them ways that are easy and accessible and mix in with their lives, you're gonna lose them. And it's just the reality of the beast, and we all know this. So often, the go-to for those who leave in the summer is shame. Shame from others who keep coming. And we all know those comments that we hear in the pews of, oh, well, this person's not here this week and they must be out. And that shame comes in because that person's there and they're being the good Christian. And that same shame also is felt by the person who isn't there, especially when conversations come up around giving during the summer and they feel bad and still want to support what's going on, but feel overwhelmed with having to make sure that gets in every week. We believe and we teach that rest is important. And while we want people to come to church for the sake of community, we also want people to know that they can be gone and care for themselves in the ways that they need to as well. And naming that rest and rest being a part of our faith life is just as important as worship. And so for many people, if that Sunday morning in the summer sitting by the lakeside is their point of rest, then we celebrate that with them. And so how can we name the elephant in the room before everybody leaves and set people up for success as we move into the summer months? And part of it is just naming it. Just saying, I know that I'm not going to see some of you for 3 months. I look forward to hearing about the wonderful adventures you're going to have this summer. And also, here are some ways you can continue to be present with our congregation, to continue to support our congregation, so that we can keep doing what we're doing through the summer and come back together again in the fall in new vibrance. A few ideas that might work well for you. Giving people mailing envelopes with the church's address already printed on them. So just name it. Say, if you're going to be gone for this summer and you need to be able to get your offering to the church, here you go. Here's one for June, here's one for July, here's one for August. Send it into our office. It has the address on it. Bonus points if you really want to splurge and get stamps. Might actually be more incentive because then people feel bad about wasting a stamp. But you could even have a build your distance giving envelopes on the last Sunday before summer to encourage people to say, okay, this is how I'm going to continue to live into this joyful giving, into the way that I want to give that matches my beliefs and matches the mission of this church. If you are able to send out a QR code for online giving, you could even do it on a business card so they could stick it in their wallet and be able to pull it out and pay like they would with a card. So when they're worshiping online, they have easy access to it. Having it on your screen is helpful too. I know with our worship, we pre-record it because I'm a masochist apparently, but it allows us to edit more and have slides and intentional offering time during that online worship. And so being able to offer people a QR code or as much information of you can follow this code to give online, you can send in your offering to the church at this address, you can work with your bank for a bill pay so that it just keeps coming in that way, or we use Venco or Tithely or any of these ways to set up your giving through the summer so you can intentionally continue to support what you believe in. Intentionally adding summer needs into online and in-person worship. What are the specific expenses that come up in the summer? Do you use air conditioning? How much does the air conditioning typically cost? I know for many of us, utilities are going to go up. Is there an end of the year giving that you could have a special offering for that says, we're going to try and pay the air conditioning for the summer. This is going to go directly to that, and give yourself a little bit of a boost while letting people know these are the expenses that come up in the summer so we can have comfortable worship. Sharing these in slides added to the online worship as well, in emails to the congregation, and putting them in your weekly bulletin. Having that continued conversation and talking about it and the things that people's offering goes toward that is directly impacting them in that moment. Don't talk about snow removal in the summer. Talk about lawn care. Talk about fixing up things or the flowers around the building, or if you are paying for a website or hosting site so people can worship with you online if your church is doing that. And then for your online worship, creating a specific offering message for those online, if you are able to edit the video, or a specific thank you to people who are worshiping online for their giving as well. I mentioned this before too, but not only is it a reminder for those online to give, it's the reminder of that part. Oh yeah, this is the part in worship that we give, and having offering time being an invitation to those online as well. But it is also a reminder for those in the pews that their friends are still with them online, and makes them a part of your worship service, especially if you're live streaming. Because we know that more people, hopefully, will be joining us online in the summer. And making sure that you welcome people in. I know for us, I don't talk about our online worship as much anymore, but I do know that people in the summer are going to use it more. And so how can I intentionally create that space so that they feel cared for within it? Changing how we talk about stewardship does not happen overnight, but it can change with practice, consistency, and intention. And so take advantage of the sun and the joy of the summer and integrate it into your church's giving practices. And I am curious if anyone has any questions. Got about 10 minutes, and I'll probably leave 2 at the end so we can figure out the plan for lunch. But are there any questions that you have for me that would be good for the whole group? Otherwise, you are welcome to individually message me or email me, and I would gladly talk. Julie.
What does your congregation use for? That's something that each of my churches struggle with, trying to figure out how they're going to do.
You keep cutting out right in the middle of what you're saying. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to read your lips.
Sorry. What my 3 congregations struggle with is how to automate giving with QR codes.
Yeah.
Or whatever. What does your church use?
Yeah, we use Vanco. And so Vanco is an online giving platform. Tithely is another one that can be used. Your church could even just make a, what's the one? The Venmo. I'm like, it sounds like Vanco, but it's not. But with Vanco and making QR codes, you can just search online for a QR code generator. They're free. You can also do it on Canva, and you would just take the address of your Vanco page and put it there, and it turns it into a QR code for you. Yeah.
And we'll be doing like a brief kind of 101 on online giving and setting up online giving at the end of today.
Sweet. Any other questions?
I just have a quick question. Can we possibly get a copy of your slides to reference back to?
Absolutely.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if y'all heard, but she offered to come and talk to councils or to work with people. And maybe you can explain just a little bit more what you mean by that, Pastor Lexi. Would that be a Sunday morning?
Probably not a Sunday morning. It could be. I have got 2 other pastors that are a pastor and a soon-to-be pastor who can preach here. So we just have to be more flexible with that. But yeah, I would love to come. One of my strengths is ideation. I love brainstorming. And so the more specific I can get for your space and your people, the better brainstorming can happen. Next week, I'm going up to Pastor Rachel's churches in Williams, Lake of the Woods area, and presenting to them on narrative budgets. And part of our conversation is around their mission and what are the pieces of their mission that we can then connect their budget to, so we can have this conversation about how their budget is supporting the mission and naming it in clear ways. And so it can be something where I come to council meetings. It could be you and I going out and getting coffee. I probably don't need to be more caffeinated, but I can. But yeah, I'm open to pretty much anything. So if you've got an idea, swing it past me. And I would love to come help your congregation just dream and talk about it differently, because that was one of the biggest things for me in seminary and this class, was realizing that, yes, I'll share it, was realizing that we can talk about money differently, and it makes it so much easier to ask. And it changes the way that churches look at giving. And now I have a stewardship board that agrees with me that we will not ever use shame. We're having I think he called it a come to Jesus type talk, but on the 17th, because that's our last one before Memorial Day weekend. And even within that, we're talking about what are the practical ways that we can bring down our sweep loan. And we figured out, if everybody evenly gave $5 more a week, we would knock out our sweep loan. That easy in a year. Not everybody can give $5 more a week. Not everybody could only give $5 more a week. There's people who could give significantly more. But being able to have those conversations that directly talk about the need, but do not bring in shame, and talk about the why of why we raise money, why we function as a church, and what we are doing in our neighborhood that makes it worthwhile. That is why we continue to talk about stewardship. And so I'm not worried about that conversation, because we've already talked about it every single week, of how we give and what that looks like, and the joy that it comes in, and that it is a response. And so it makes those asks a lot easier. One of a side thing, which is I should have thrown in, but I didn't. We also created a little cartoon character for this year. Her name is Beth. She's a baguette. I have one of my membership or stewardship board members gave me a plushie of her. So this is Beth, the baguette, because Bethlehem, for those Hebrew nerds, it means house of bread, Bethlehem. And so our whole conversation this year is, how are we a house of bread in our community? And having this little cartoon character, Beth, which is the dorkiest thing in the world, has made that conversation easier, because we have this character inviting us in. So she was in our narrative budget, and the premise of our conversation on the 17th is we need to give Beth a raise. And all of a sudden we have this little character that we can use to talk about it, and it invites people in a different and more lighthearted way. So there's my other little 8 cents that I keep offering.
So wonderful. I will say that Pastor Lexi is not in the Northwestern Minnesota Synod, but because I believe in really good stewardship, if you invite her, I highly recommend that you are generous, and I would even throw out there potentially considering giving her pulpit supply and mileage. Again, I am not speaking for her. I am just supporting her. So we are going to talk about heading off to lunch now. And because we are all online, I would like to know how long you want for lunch. Do you want to eat and have us talk at you? Do you want to eat with each other? Like, what would you like? So feel free to unmute. All of your opinions matter. Also, I'm going to screenshot you. I'm going to screenshot you in a second. So whoever's hiding, come up to the video.
I would prefer not to work over lunch.
Agreed.
Okay.
How long would you like? Would be good.
How long would you like?
30 minutes.
30 minutes. Okay. 30 minutes is on the table. St. Olaf, lean forward for me.
3/4 of an hour to an hour.
Julie's is 45.
Okay. And we're up to 45. Anyone else want to throw in a time?
30 minutes.
Okay. Okay. Let's listen and do 45. Okay. Because in the schedule, it was an hour. So we're going to go to 45 minutes, and I'm going to take a screenshot right now. So smile And if you are not in the camera, please get in the camera because I want to include everybody. I know there's somebody hiding in Zion. I know there was somebody hiding in St. Olaf. And I think we lost a First Lutheran person, but that's okay. All right, here we go. Oh, are we waiting for Zion? Zion, scooch in a little bit more. Okay, we love Jesus and stewardship. Got you. Okay, thank you so much. That will be the screen for this video, just so you know, so that people will it'll be adorable. Okay, go on, Lexi.
I was going to say, can I close us in a poem before we head out for lunch?
You sure can. So bring your printouts when we're back and poem us away. I'm going to say it's a poem/prayer.
Poem/prayer called Don't Hesitate by Mary Oliver. If you suddenly and unexpectedly feel joy, don't hesitate. Give into it. There are plenty of lives and whole towns destroyed or about to be. We are not wise and not very often kind, and much can never be redeemed. And still, life has some possibility left. Perhaps this is its way of fighting back, that sometimes something happens better than all the riches or power in the world. It could be anything, but very likely you'll notice it in an instant when love begins. Anyway, that's often the case. Anyway, whatever it is, don't be afraid of its plenty. Joy is not made to be a crumb. Amen.
Amen. And I'm going to share a picture on the screen over lunch. Everyone who attends will get a book, and there's a variety of them, so we'll give them away after lunch. So I'm going to put the picture so you can be thinking about what book you want to nab.
So one thing that our churches are really good at, churches all across the, I'm going to say world, is doing things after the fact in response to something. Everything's going along really, really well until it's not. And this is human nature. This is what we do. So when we're talking about generosity and we're talking about stewardship, we know that summer is not a surprise, right? We know that it's going to come every single year. We know that the lake is going to, well, we're hoping that the ice will go out every single year. We know that people are going to take vacations. We know that there are ball games and weddings and reunions and cabins and all the things. They are going to happen. The question is not whether it is going to happen, if the people are going to be gone. The question is, how do we help keep them connected to the ministries that are continuing in our places? And so it's part of our work. I assume that it's part of your work because this is why you're here, to build a faithful plan that we can help reduce anxiety and the stress of all that happens and have a little bit more confidence. And so I'd like for you all to unmute for just a second. And I would like to go around the room. And for those of you that have your answers on your screen, on your name, or if you put them in the chat this morning, we're going to name what we know. Okay, we're going to name the reason that you came here and the percentage of people that you believe it reduces in the summer. So the amount of people that go away in the summer. So we're going to go ahead and, because there are some of you that have groups and some of you that don't, I'm just going to call on people. So I'm going to start with Julie and Rachel down in the corner of my screen. That was funny, by the way. You just, oh no. If you can please just say your names and say why you came today and say how many folks tend to go away, and then the average age if you know it. Go ahead.
I'm Julie.
I'm Rachel.
And they're here because I saw it on the Synod connection newsletter.
Oh, good. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And she forwarded it to me, and I love to learn. I had no clue it was about stewardship at all. But Pastor Lexi, I'm actually taking Grace's class this summer, Money and Mission of the Church. So I'm going to get a heads up in class with all this information you shared with me. So
Rachel, that also feels like the most seminary student thing ever. Is like, I don't know, my pastor told me to come to this thing, so I showed up.
that she's like, do you want to attend this? And I'm like, yeah, let's go.
That is how I became a pastor. Look out.
Yeah.
Well, it's sort of 3 congregations. So in the summer, the smallest congregation in Havana, their worship numbers really don't change. They throughout the year, and they're an older congregation. The one in Rutland, I don't attendance. I don't think really dips that much.
So you're pretty steady there.
Yeah, and then a Foreman, maybe 7 families.
Right. I would say I am a lake person, so which is very odd considering I'm going into ministry. But I would say, if for my own personal experience, if being at the lake on the weekends and maybe missing out on my church services, being vulnerable here, one thing that I would appreciate from that voice is having church things during the week that you can connect with your congregation, whether it be, you know, we have a pizza in the park event, things like that, where you can get together with your fellow parishioners in your church and your community and find out what's going on and stay connected.
Great. Thank you so much. Wonderful. Okay. I am going to ask Lori to go next.
I'm at St. Olaf Lutheran in Devil's Lake, North Dakota. And I think I saw it on the Synod Connections too, in Eastern North Dakota Synod. And we have a retreat center that we have in the summer right by the lake. So fortunately, we get some lake people that come, but not from our congregation. People that are at the lake come to that service. So I have a little kind of 2 stories. So that's great that we have some summer people that come that aren't usually there in the winter. But then at St. Olaf in town, I would say the majority of our young families aren't in church as often. So I would say attendance in town goes down probably maybe 20%. And then but a lot of our people go out also to the retreat center. It's kind of a clique of people that go out there. So it's kind of hard to get an idea of where it's
I'm
at.
already so fascinated by these different answers. Are not what I expected. So like, this is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
thank
yeah,
you.
I'd say our young families are, the lake people and the families that are experiencing a lot of activities with their kids in the summer. So.
Sure. How about Osekas?
Go ahead.
So we saw it as well in the connection email. And we are a church that serves more of an elderly congregation. We do have some younger families. We will see them kind of more sporadically camping and doing family stuff during the summer when the kids are out of school, I should say. But it's not a high percent. I'm going to probably say like 15%. It's a very small group that we would not see. As for us, we really just wanted to see how we can connect more, not only with our current congregation, but those looking for other connections. And stewardship wise, for the most part, I feel like our givings are pretty well. but I feel like we can always improve and we can always reach out in other directions as well. And so honestly, I was telling Mary Ann during our break, I'm like, I actually just reached out to our treasurer yesterday because we do Vanco. I don't have access to get onto Vanco, but I'm like, hey, during Easter, there was all sorts of bulletins, all sorts of like little flyer thingies that we could put up. I'm like, there's got to be something for summer that we can kind of push as well.
Yes. Brilliant. I love that. Thank you, Stephanie. Anything that you want to add, Mary Ann?
She does a great job. I came to learn. And this is an area that I'm pretty weak in. And so in terms of how I can help, so I thought, need to come. And saw it in the bulletin.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. How about Zion and War Road?
Okay. My name is Buck Bew, and I'm here with Deb Lallam. And we have more of a winter slump than a summer. We actually gain in population in the summer. And we actually host a pie social for our snowbirds in June after they come back from their winter retreat. So that's kind of we are kind of gifted that way. So we're kind of lucky that we don't have a summer slump besides the occasional individuals going on vacation here and there. But so yeah, that's our situation here at Zion.
Thank you so much, Pastor.
Take all of these things that you're learning and use them in November when the snowbirds are leaving.
That's what we discussed.
We intend to, just to add a little bit onto what Buck said so well. Through the year, we have a Sunday worship and a Wednesday worship. The Wednesday worship traditionally breaks for summer. And as an experiment, we are trying a little bit of programming Wednesday evenings in June and seeing how that goes. Because, of course, when you have Wednesday worship and you have Sunday worship, the twain tend not to meet. And so we have a few folks shift to Sunday, but we have more that do not.
That's helpful. Thank you. Thank you. How about Pastor Lynn, who's just got in her car? Here, I'm going to make it easy for you. There you go. You're welcome.
Found this out through the Synod materials. I have, and we have our average age is 49.83, and we actually population. We are in a right near a lake, very touristy, and our congregation has about 20 to 30 more visitors or more people each week in the summer, but fewer members, right? Because the members have company at the lake, so they stay home because they have company. And then all the visitors kind of check us out, or the snowbirds, or the seasonals. And interestingly, our income goes down. And so how do you know, so my interest is like, how do we reach those people who are not members to give? And how do we get our regular members to give even when they're not attending?
Great. Thank you so much, Pastor Lynn. Wow, the diversity in these conversations is grand. Pastor Penny.
Yeah. I haven't been here for a summer yet, so I don't know firsthand. But what I'm told is of my 3 churches, Perry stays pretty consistent. They're small. There's about 12 of them. And they stick it out through the summer. Bung drops off significantly. The kids don't come. The farmers don't come. I might have 6 or 8, and we're used to about 20. The big church, kind of what the others have said, you get more guests, so it goes up that way, but members not so much, so it goes down the other way. My concern is that they go from 2 services a week to 1 service a week. So they're changing times, changing schedule, changing everything. And that always makes me nervous. The one church, Bung, is talking about possibly doing a regular midweek service. Typically they don't have a service, or they just go down to once a month. So it's going to be tough. And I have no idea what to expect financially.
Sure. Okay. Well, I love that there's a lot of broad strokes in both Pastor Lexi's and the conversation I'm going to have too. That's helpful, because clearly there's just a lot of different needs. Let's see. I missed Marilyn, Sam at Shepherd of the Pines. Do you want to share?
Sure. The reason I came is that we don't have a stewardship program, which I think is necessary, but we did talk about it a little bit at one council meeting, and they really weren't interested. So I really liked what went on today about how to sneak it in there instead of having just call it Stewardship Sunday or Stewardship Month. My congregations both stay pretty much the same. I'm kind of like Warroad. I have more that leave in the winter than those that leave in the summer. And I think that's because I have an older population.
Sure. Yep. That's helpful. Thank you, Marilyn. And Joe, thanks for coming back. What we're doing is just going around and sharing what our situation is in our congregation when it comes to are people leaving for the summer? Are they not? What brought you here? What's your concern?
I basically came just because I was interested to see if there's something we can pick up. We do have a number of people that take off in the winter, and we have a number of different people that take off in the summer. So,
okay.
Just kind of, it's 50-50 sometimes. Yeah.
Sure.
I know
so you're needing the sprinkling of stuff. Okay.
There you go. That's a good way to say it. Yeah. We lose a lot of the younger families with the kids in the summertime. And yeah. And thank you for recording it, because as much as I wanted to take the day off, it's not happening. So,
let me just apologize in advance that I forgot to push pause, and there's a 45-minute gap in there. So,
all right.
I think I'll be able to fix it ahead of time, but anyway. How about First Lutheran Church? Alexandria.
Hi there. My name is Maria. I'm a lay staff member, and we're just needing to think about stewardship in new ways and be creative, and especially in the summer. Our summer attendance is not bad. We probably lose about 20% over compared to the winter months, but we do have an outdoor worship option during the summer, which draws in some people too. So, so I would say that we're just needing to find new ways to engage those people year round, and not just in that one like stewardship month, or just fit it in wherever we possibly can and educate people on the need for it.
Thank you so much. This is helping Deacon Aaron and I a lot to figure out what is the next stewardship. And it sounds like it's a sprinkling of just the best ideas for year round. So this is super helpful. Thank you. And we have one more person here from St. Olaf. Are you both from the same church, or is it 2 different St. Olafs? Devil's Lake? It's different, yes? I'm going to ask you to unmute if you wouldn't mind.
Same church.
Same
But
church.
Bob, you might have other ideas other than what I said. I'm not sure.
I think I'm unmuted now. I'm new to the church council, and Pastor probably missed our snowbirds too, which we have, and probably a little different age group of people. To me, everybody can come up with an excuse for not being a church. To me, if we can make church one of the highest priorities in our lives, is going to be more important than trying to have a Wednesday night service, a Saturday night service, or some of these other options. Not to say that they can't succeed, but to me, those types of things just kind of split up the people that are generally at church anyway. I think that somebody had said earlier that 10% of the people run the church. Did I hear that correctly? Or
you did, yes.
Okay. To me, if we can work on that number to increase that number, where people feel more ownership in a church, that would have a bigger impact on some of these stewardship issues that we constantly are battling.
Mm-hmm. Amen. I think we all would agree with that. And I am just going to do a slight little plug and say I would go to Wartburg Seminary's Castle Project and look up Living Out Our Baptismal Promises. Because I know you're in Eastern North Dakota, and so we're doing a thing over here called Behold in Northwest, but they are doing it for the whole entire ELCA, and I think that that's what I hear you saying. You might connect with that, so give that a read and see if that is helpful. And I'm sure everyone here agrees that if we made Christ first in our lives, making sure that we have an opportunity to walk a life that Jesus showed us how, stewardship would be the last worry that we would need to talk about. And as Pastor Lexi said, Jesus talked about money a lot. There's nothing that Jesus talked more about except love. So I like to share that when I'm at churches doing stewardship conversations. Is there's a reason that Jesus leaned in. And so if Jesus can do it, so can we, right? Amen. That's just a mini little sermon, not in the thing. Okay, I would love for all of you the little 6-page little workbook that I sent. I first want you to take your pen, and the title says Build Your Summer Stewardship Pizza Plan. There's a reason. But change the summer to whatever season or no season that you want. Okay, just cross that out and make it your own. And you'll get these documents too, probably later after than this, because this is the first time I've used them. And so we're going to make some tweaks likely, and they'll get better. So feel free to do that. And then I'm going to just tell you a little bit of the thought about what we were going to be doing if we were all together. And so originally, Deacon and Aaron and I was like, it's going to be good weather. Let's pull all these folks together for conversation. And I am a bit of a creative soul. And so immediately I was like, what could we do with their hands that they could walk around and not be bored having to sit and be, talked to? And so I'm like, oh my goodness, we're going to create little pizzas. Okay, this is like the fun little, it's like a mini pizza box. See, it's very small. And we're going to walk around and we're going to pick all the different things that make this pizza, and then they can take it back for them. You could tell I worked at Pizza Hut in high school. And so I tried to make an app. Let me tell you that the people that have these little reels that say, AI will help you make an app in 10 minutes, lies. Do not try. Do not go down the rabbit hole. Do not use it at all. That did not work. But I was able to put some things together that we can do to make kind of a fun little, I don't know, take and bake pizza, so to speak, that has the options that you particularly need in your places. Because you heard everyone's just a little bit different, and there's going to be some things that work in some places and some things that work in others. But likely, I didn't hear the same thing repeated over and over. Did you all? No. So we're going to do our very, very best. So thank you for participating and going in and having this conversation. Whenever you hear the word summer, put in whatever season it is or however it is that works best for you. So we know that life fluctuates for people, right? Throughout the year, people come and people go. People are oftentimes engaged with congregations, or they fall back for some reason. Sometimes when there is a death in the family, that person is the person that brought people to church. And so all of a sudden there's a disconnect. Sometimes when people are in the season of life where they have children that are just in everything and the comings and goings, these folks cannot even keep track of when the last time they ate altogether is. They are not going to be able to figure out how to get all of this stuff done. And we get to walk with them and help in the ways that we can. I'm speaking for myself in that stage of life. Maybe that's not you, but it sure was me. And so we are going to really answer some questions here and wonder together how we can be the church, how we can function as a church that also functions with people whose lives are busy and maybe not always thinking that church is the most important thing. But sometimes they are, and they just can't make it. And sometimes the money that follows them also doesn't come. And so at whatever season it is for you, when there is drops in giving, we know that is predictable. We know that I heard each of you say, this is what we expect. Everybody except for Pastor Penny, because it's her first season there and she doesn't know yet. And so that might not be as helpful for you, Pastor Penny. But most people know that there is a rhythm in their church, and you need to find whatever the rhythm is. And so figuring that out is really important. It matters because stewardship is part of the connection, part of the mission, part of the trust and consistency that we all have to do to make sure that there's still a church. And so it matters. We have to name very plainly and very clearly first the reality in which you are living in. You just gave us a little sample of what that is. When there are ebbs and flows in attendance and connection, that does not mean that at those same ebbs and flows that the electricity bill also goes to the lake or goes away for the winter with the snowbirds or whatever. No, it sticks around, right? It's still here. The pastor's salary, the leader's salary, the SAM, the lay leaders, whoever is leading your congregation, they still need to get paid. Somebody still needs to write a check or at least click the button so that it goes into their account. The salary does not take a vacation. Insurance bills do not take July off, even though we would love that. Ministry continues even when our attendance is scattered. And so we need to go ahead and talk about how we can do that, work around that. So if you would turn to your first page, okay, it looks like this. I'm going to actually ask now if Deacon Aaron can turn on the slideshow. It's really only 5 slides, so it's not as, daunting as it sounds. And so when we get there, we're going to be talking about putting a pizza together. So I want you all to just, put your heads in the game with me. We're going to build a pizza together. And in this, that was going to be an app that clearly could not, so now it's on paper. We are going to work on 6 different areas. We're going to work on the crust of the pizza, which is the foundation. We're going to work on the sauce, which is the messaging and how that all works. We're going to work on the cheese You're going to choose your cheese. Choose, maybe you like mozzarella. Maybe you like a little cheddar. I like feta on my cheese. So you're going to be choosing your cheese, and that's the thing, the glue that holds it together, the steady support. We're going to choose our toppings, and that's your creative option. You get to choose some things, and we're going to say, okay, this is our bake time, which is we're going to put some dates on a calendar that either we come back to this, or we say, I'm going to talk to this person by this date. You're going to choose some actual time, some calendar time here. And then, of course, the pizza gets delivered. How are you going to share this message with people? How are you going to connect people? All of those things. And we're going to say, okay, this is our bake time, which is we're going to put some dates on a calendar that either we come back to this, or we say, I'm going to talk to this person by this date. You're going to choose some actual time, some calendar time here. And then, of course, the pizza gets delivered. How are you going to share this message with people? How are you going to connect people? All of those things. So those are the layers of our pizza. Oh, that was already on the screen. Okay, let me just get back over here. My second screen died, and so I'm trying to do this all on a little laptop, which is making it a little bit harder. So the first thing that I would like for y'all to do is to take out your piece of paper, okay, the very first one. And do you see where it says naming reality? It says crust. It's the starting point. This is both the foundation and the naming of why your summer ministry matters. Now, remember, you can cross that out and you can just say ministry matters, okay? It doesn't have to say summer anymore. But I want you to name your reality in there and change this for everything, because we want to talk about how our congregations have the ebbs and the flows. Where do those go? So for you, with your people, what does this look like? When is it? What time of year is it that attendance drops? And who's actually gone and who sticks around? There's a lot of you that said you had older congregations, and those folks stick around, and so they're not gone. What is the narrative that you actually already do with stewardship? Is it nothing? Is it maybe who was it? First Lutheran that says you have a plan in place, but you need a little bit more? Sorry. So like for you, you would be looking at this saying, well, what is our narrative? Well, this is, our current narrative is we want to do it more than once a year in our stewardship month or whatever it is. And then how do we speak about it? Is it does someone go up there and say, okay, this is our stewardship month, so therefore we're going to talk about, stewardship today, and then we're never going to talk about it again, which is the most typical, unfortunately, thing, the way that it is done in our churches, is that we're going to mention that we are having some problems with our budget, that there isn't enough money, we're in the red, or however people say it, and then we're going to magically hope that people just send in the money and it's all done and, problem solved, check a box. So if you can just take a minute to go down and answer the questions in the box that says, our reality in one sentence is. So go ahead and cross off. Deacon Aaron, will you take this off the screen for just a moment? I'm sorry, I should have had you to stay on the welcome. Let's just leave it right there for a minute. So is everyone seeing what I'm talking about? I have to see your faces. Yes. Okay. When someone has your sentence written, would you be willing to share? Let's just take a minute for everybody to go ahead and do some writing. And then I'll ask if someone will share what they wrote. It can include any of these questions above in the naming reality. Doesn't have to have all of them. It's just, what is our reality right here, right now? So an example might be, I think I'll use Zion and War Road. Our reality is we have extra people that come in the summer, and our people are gone more in the winter. Am I saying it right? I want you guys to unmute so that you can tell. Oh, yes. Okay. Nods are fine. Okay. And then you said who's usually gone, who's usually around. And then, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So far, so good. Okay.
Yeah.
And then what is the expense that continues? Like, what is the thing that people are most concerned about in the church that continues even when people are gone?
Well, our heating bill being 6 miles from the Canadian border.
Okay. So your example is your heating bill. Okay. And then what do you currently say in your church when it comes to money, when it comes to, maybe we're in the red? Like, how do you normally handle that?
I don't think we've ever been in the red. So I'll maybe let Pastor Linda and maybe can answer that question better than I can.
How do you approach stewardship right now?
Well, we have a stewardship committee, for one thing. And if there is a need for stewardship, we'll have one of the committee members address the congregation.
Okay, that's your answer. Great. Okay. I didn't mean to cut you off. Please continue if you have more to say.
Yep.
So we're going to cross out summer for you because summer isn't when the need is. And so if we put all of that together, what would our sentence be about Zion and War Road? Naming your reality. This is your crust. This is where you are. What would your sentence be?
I suppose something like that our attendance drops during the winter. However, our heating and electric bills continue to escalate during the winter months due to the cold temperatures here.
Yes. Well done. You just practiced that right on the spot. Good job. Wonderful. And then because, of course, our foundation is Christ, right? Our crust might be some of these other things, but our foundation is Christ. How can we add Jesus into that message as well? I'm really putting you on the spot here. You have a team of people too.
Yeah. I guess by asking the congregation to pray for the church and I guess I can't think of anything else.
It's a hard one.
Lifting up, because building use goes up a lot in the winter too. That's when a lot of the quote unquote regular programming resumes. There's Wednesday worship again, there's confirmation, there's pre-confirmation, there's Sunday school. It goes, there's quilting, there's Bible study groups, there's all sorts of things. So sort of lifting up the ways in which we gather around our Lord Jesus in those ministries, and the ways that some of those ministries function as outreach, and they happen inside the church building, which needs to be functional in order for them to happen there.
Right. That was really well done. Well done. So you named what happens. Your attendance drops in the winter. You named what stays consistent. Your electricity, your heat goes up. You named that even though, because you're nearly Canada. I mean, I did hear that too. Nearly Canada. And that even though that is the case, that people are going away, there is still so much activity that is happening in that building that needs to continue so that you can continue to share Jesus, right?
Correct.
So thank you, Pastor Linda, for saying the name of Jesus. I'm always trying to get people to do that. So what did you want to say more? Oh, now we're zoomed. Okay. So does everybody understand how we're building our crust. We're building our foundation of our pizza. Okay. We need to name the hardship. We need to name the reality, and we need to name why it matters. Okay, so this is like a month's worth of stewardship classes in like 5 minutes you're getting right now. I mean, this is really deep, hard stuff, as Lexi's like nodding her head. Yes, wow, okay. Okay, thanks, Pastor Penny. See you soon. Who else wants to use an example? I will prod you along if you like.
We can.
This First Lutheran. Oh, yay! Okay, fun. Let's do you. Okay, First Lutheran Church in Alexandria, and we have Maria and
Jessica.
Jessica, thank you. Okay, bring it on.
So we're a resort destination community in the summer. So and we offer outdoor worship in our outdoor worship space every week, weather permitting. So our reality is that our own members that are kids and families tend to kind of disappear in the summer. We do have trips and VBS, but otherwise there isn't weekly programming like there is during the winter. But the slump is, I would say, in those people not being there, we do have decent worship attendance, but it is a lot of guests because a lot of people here live on the lake year round and they are hosting people in the summer. So we are still ministering to people and offering worship, but they aren't people that you necessarily are asking to tithe. They might give because they're there, but they're not people that you're going to want to set up recurring gifts necessarily because they're a guest.
Sure.
And even on our youth trips, they aren't all members. They are a lot of our members who are bringing a friend with, and so their families don't necessarily support financially. So that's the reality. And the cost that continues is payroll.
Okay.
That all of the ministry staff to keep worship going and to take youth kids on trips and all of that continues, as well as our living expenses. Is that accurate?
People don't stop going in the hospital, right? People don't stop getting sick.
Right.
Pastoral visits still need to happen. Yep.
Yes.
Okay. And then what is your foundation? Why does it matter? All of this stuff. Why does it matter that First Lutheran Church in Calvary, First Lutheran Church in Alexandria is having worship?
Because
we wanted to continue in the summer, not just be, our summers are short. We get that, but it would be, it's important to be part of your everyday life, even in the summer.
And
how can we put Jesus in it? Oh, hospitality. Nice.
Yeah. To be if we're going to be a resort town, let's also be a worship resort town, because both Calvary and First Lutheran have outdoor worship. Calvary's is at Luther Kretz Bible Camp on a lake shore, and ours is not on a lake shore, but that's okay.
But on site.
But it's on site. Yeah.
Fantastic. So, how would we put this sentence together? Let me just rephrase what I think I heard. Okay. That you're a resort town, which could be possibly a resort church in the summer, that you've got great worship attendance. You said decent, which is great to me. But that you have an opportunity to share Jesus with people who are visiting, and you have an opportunity to make an ask to those that are regular worshipers to support that. Yeah. So these folks are not regular worshipers, right? But your spin might be, we need you to keep supporting this so that we have an opportunity to share Jesus with people that are visiting to our neck of woods, and they are walking through our doors, because hospitality matters, and so does sharing Jesus. Right?
Tend to set it better ourselves.
Well, shoot. Okay. That wasn't the intention.
Good job.
Okay. Who else wants to go? Who else wants to come up, name their reality, name their opportunity, and name why it matters, and the thing that still has to be paid for? Anybody brave enough again? We've had 2 brave souls. Well, really, several.
Rachel said she'll be brave. Focus on one of the congregations that's in the parish.
Okay, Julie, go. Rachel, go.
So where do you want me to begin?
Okay, so name what your reality is.
Our reality would be declining numbers just in general in the summer.
Okay.
Whether that be attendance, money, involvement, all of that.
So just decline.
A decline.
Okay.
Yes.
And it happens when Sunday school wraps up, confirmation Sunday's done, and when Springs work and seeding ramps up.
We're farming community, so.
Okay. And
things really revolve
what is
around
the thing that still needs to be paid for? Okay. Farming community.
Well, air conditioning. I mean, there's still church costs, payroll, vacation Bible school.
VBS is a fun one to lift up. And why does it matter? What's the foundation? Why does it matter that this ministry of yours keep going?
Because Jesus doesn't take a break over the summer.
Nice. Wow, you nailed that. Everybody should write that down. Hint, 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 or whatever season it is that you have. Right. Okay, can you say that whole thing now? Your sentence, put it all together.
So during the summer, our congregation experiences general decline. And you want me to add the because in there?
So your congregation experiences decline, and it matters, right? That you
and it matters because what I said. I mean, I don't know. That was pretty blunt, but I don't know how to say that in a more graceful way. I can sometimes be that blunt person, but
I don't think that there's anything wrong with that, Rachel. Your church experiences decline, and then you just want to leave it as that. However, you're still doing VBS and you still need air conditioning. Why? Because Jesus doesn't take the summer off. Okay, there you go. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that sentence. Very, very well done. Okay, so I want to just put out here that this is something that you could do with your people, with your stewardship team, with the other voices. If you don't have a stewardship team, I heard you say that, Marilyn, with other people in your congregation. This could be done in any situation, especially if you're asking people to talk about stewardship and fundraising, and they don't really have the backbone for it. I say this because if you have an actual reason, an actual thing that matters to your congregation, and a reason behind it, because we really, really want to continue to share Jesus with whoever walks in the door. If you can't be here, we understand, but there are people here, and it matters that our ministry continue. And so having that practice of going through these questions and asking these things, and then having what we call an elevator speech, something that you can say in under 2 minutes about your ministry that both names reality, names what you need, and names the why. This is a critical thing to learn as leaders in stewardship. It is equally as important if you do not go into the red. So I hear you, the folks at Zion, saying, you know, we're in the black. We're not, you know, we don't actually have a giant fall that ever happens. Well, then I say, oh my Lord, look at the outreach and ministry you can do What is it that you care so much about that you can do what Pastor Lexi said, gave the example of the people bringing in the dollars, right? And using that as we're teaching stewardship, we're teaching generosity, and it can be so that you can be the church out in the world in your neck of the woods, literally in the woods. See, I did that. That was a good pun for War Road. Anyway, it is fun that we can do these kind of things, and it's really important. It doesn't have to be miserable. Stewardship does not have to be miserable. So, Deacon Aaron, can I have you go to slide 3, I think it is now, because I think I skipped 2. Okay, there's the crust. We did that. Now if I can get you to go to the next one. Okay, we are going to talk about the sauce. Okay, the sauce is all the nummy goodness. Okay, most of you probably like cheese more. I don't know. The question is really about the messaging. How are you going to deliver the messaging? How does it work in your congregations? What is delivered well and what is like no way? And so I did realize that when I printed this or when I finished it, that I forgot a QR code. So if everybody in the other can write a QR code, just write that in and I'll tell you why when we get to that. So I'm going to explain a couple of different options and I want you to kind of hear it. And I am going to have you do the same thing. We're going to do this 6 times. Okay, we're going to practice these things. You're not going to do it with the whole group every time because some of you are never going to speak in the whole group. And so we will put you in breakouts so that you don't have to. But the messaging, you need a simple message that you can repeat, kind of like we just talked about with the elevator speech. This is where most congregations get stuck. They only talk about money in the congregation, in September's, right in the pew, in the pulpit, and that's it. And so that is not a model that works for most of our congregations. It is not. It is a model that is just old, and it needs to be tweaked up just a little bit, okay? We need to figure out how we can have a nice, good Italian sauce with maybe some chunks of tomatoes and some really good seasoning, okay? I'm going to give you 3 different examples. Example number 1. As summer schedules fill with lake days, family trips, ball games, and reunion, we give thanks for the gift of rest and renewal. We also invite you to remember that the ministry of our congregation continues all summer long. Worship, care, outreach, building expenses, staff support, and community ministry continue even when many of us are away. Your steady giving helps us be faithful in every season. Okay? That was just a nice, simple blurb that could be written in a bulletin insert in the bulletin, said from any place in the church. It could be on a bulletin board, really simple. Example number 2. This is a mission message. Summer is a season of movement, but the mission of the church keeps going. God's Holy Spirit blows everywhere in this place, even when you are not here. Every gift helps us continue worship, care for our community, and everyday ministry that makes this congregation a place of grace and love. Okay? Different spin on it. Sauce option number 3, the very direct message. Summer giving often drops, but our expenses do not. Consider setting up recurring giving and preparing your summer offerings before you travel. Your generosity helps us avoid financial pitfalls. The end. Okay? Some congregations would say that that's what they want. They just want you to say it like it is and be done with it. Okay, that might be for you. Then sauce option number 4, the lake message. Title it whatever you want. Before you head to the lake, we invite you to make a plan for your summer offering. Whether you're in the pew, at the cabin, on the road, or watching online. You are important to us, and you are part of our ministry wherever you are. Okay, can I have you just remove that for a minute again, Deacon Aaron? We're going to bring that one back in just a second. I want to hear what you heard. What was different in those messages? Which one resonated with you, if any?
Well, I like number 2 and number 4. Number 1 was definitely a guilt trip. And
yep.
And I don't know about, you say that the direct approach, some people like it, some people don't. You know,
yep.
you might be putting some people off by that approach. So
yes,
I liked the 2 and 4.
I
especially like the part where you say you are a part of our ministry, no matter where you are, because I think that reinforces that we care about you. You are important to us. You are a part of our church.
Thank you. Who else has a thought? What resonated with you, or what made you go, oh, no way?
Rebel, what stuck out to me in the last one was before you leave for the lake, right? Which assumes that you're going to be leaving for the lake, and names it, and it feels like permission giving in some way, right? I had a colleague who came from the southern part of the U.S., where like this kind of seasonal rhythm wasn't true because it was warm all year round. And he struggled with like his parishioners leaving in the summer. And it's like, listen, friends, we survived winter. Okay? We got 3 nice months. We're going to, right? We celebrate God's creation and enjoying it. And so this permission of saying, when you as you prepare to leave, permission giving and naming it as a rhythm of life in the Odas, right?
Thank you. What other thoughts do we have?
I really liked when you, I don't know which number it was, but when you stated the things that maybe start to disappear or dwindle during the summer. I know we had brought up that people like to give for a cause. They like specifics. And I think there's a way of being direct about what is declining or what the church needs help with, while still having humility and naming that, while I know this might make some of us uncomfortable, I just want to name the reality here and understand that, you know, this is not, you know, I don't know what the proper words like a guilt trip, but this is what we're seeing. And I know people like to hear these things and stay in communication, you know, keep open communication about what's going on in our church. And this is what we're seeing. We don't know if that's, you know, people leaving, if it's, you know, we're busy with farming and our vocations, but you know, what can we do as a church so that this doesn't happen? And
right. Thank you, Rachel. I think that you connected the mission message and the direct message, and you put them both together and you created a new one, which is great. Okay, one last comment on that, and then you're going to do an assignment. Anyone have one last thing to say?
We can talk. So we are a hop, skip, and a jump from Alexandria. And I also agree with the gentleman that was talking earlier, the fact that number 3 may be too aggressive, because again, being Minnesotans, we are very passive aggressive. We are very, very kind-hearted people. So that may be a little too aggressive for some of them, but I will also say those grandmas and grandpas like the direct effect. They like to, don't sugarcoat it, just tell me what's actually going on. But with the number 4, speaking of lake life, honestly, I would even throw like camping and vacationing in, because truly that's where a lot of our younger families are going to go. Now that school is out, they're going to take those kids and go have those adventures. And exactly how you said, that even though you're not here on Sunday doesn't mean you can't watch it on video. It doesn't mean you can't pray at your campsite. You can still do all of that even though you are away. And yes, while you're away, set up this online giving, because then you don't even have to worry about it. It automatically comes out and it will just keep on going through the rest of the year for you.
Amen. Well done, Stephanie. Thank you. I accidentally muted myself there. On your sheet of paper, I'm going to ask you to talk amongst yourself about the communication tools that work best for your congregation. Okay, I'm going to read through them real quick, and then I need you to answer your tone, and I think Zion has opinions about that. And the tone you want to steer away from, and the tone you want to be you want it to be received in, and then to write down your example. So some of the communication tools, how you are getting your message across, this is the how, is, of course, you could do an early summer letter, right? You can, after you've drafted all this up, you can send out that letter. You can do leader announcements. You can do storytelling, which is having not the leaders, lay people in the church tell the stories about why it matters that the church continues on in whatever season it is that it's lowered, that attendance is lowered. You can do a photo gallery walk in your church. One of the, it is very neat at First Lutheran Church in Detroit Lakes has a kind of a giant 16 by 20 photos that they have of different people in the summer. And they have like a walk that you can do and kind of look around it. People have sent in their photos of where they are and where they stop and pray for the church and the people in the building. And so there's like a little thing on the wall that says, these folks this summer did this. And it gives an example of what people can do even when they're not at church. And so it's a beautiful little gallery walk, they call it. And they did a contest of who could like send in the most creative one, and like someone was under a waterfall. Anyway, there are ideas to do storytelling through photos that you can do in your church. Email photo series, same type of thing, where people are emailing almost like an old fashioned telephone chain. So, one person calls the next person that calls the next person that calls the next person. That is how one of our churches does all their communication. And so it's so fascinating. Now they have but they have about 30 members in their congregation. And so this is for smaller members. But when there is information to be shared, that is how it is shared. No newsletters. It is literally shared in a text. And they have a chain and they send it via photo. So this is what's happening next. You're invited to this. It's super interesting. If you want to know more about it, let me know. It sounds complicated. It's not. Giving statements with handwritten notes, monthly postcards, text reminders, bulletin note series, temple talks, which is something that you've all talked about, people being able to get up and share about what the need is. Text alerts, which I just mentioned, social media posts, personal asks, Sunday school art mailings, short videos and reels, newsletters, and then a QR code that can take you to like a blog or your website or whatever the case may be. If you can take the next 4 minutes and actually check through the things that works for your congregation, and then cross out the things that do not work for your congregation, you're making a workable plan here. So check the boxes that work for your congregation or might, and cross out the ones that don't. Feel free to add others, and if you add others, please share them with us when we come back. What tone do you want? Do you want this to be encouraging? Is there anybody that's not looking at the paper? I should have asked that right away. Is there anyone not looking at the paper? Okay, good. Would you go ahead and put that back up, please, Deacon Aaron? It's the sauce one. For folks that are viewing this later, it's going to make a lot more sense for them. We'll make sure that we put the link to the documents also. But what tone do you want? To be encouraging, hopeful, honest, practical, grateful, invitational? What tone do you want to avoid? Shame, scolding, panic, guilt, desperation, apology for asking? It's okay to ask. You don't have to apologize for that. And then your example. And so we're going to just take the next few minutes. We'll come back at 1:55. 1:55. And actually, why don't we then take a bathroom break? So let's come back at 2 o'clock, and I'm going to ask you what your sentences are. So what is your main message that you're trying to get across, whatever season it is, about stewardship? Return at 2 p.m. Then you can have a 5-minute bathroom break. Okay, Deacon Aaron, you can move to the next slide, please. Actually, how about you just pull it down for a minute? Thank you. Okay, I set a bathroom break too, and a couple people are still gone, so we'll be patient.
And I think they made it on camera.
So can we pick your brain?
Yeah.
So Mary Ann was talking about that she had, did you work for the church?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, she had worked for the church where they did something to the effect of like a flat Stanley, but a Jesus. And you take the pictures as you take him around on your vacations and stuff like that. So I was looking to see, they don't have any flat Stanley Jesuses on Amazon, but
Julie and Rachel have it. Julie and Rachel. Look at Julie and Rachel.
What?
Flat Jesus, right there on Julie and Rachel's screen. Flat Jesus.
Flat Jesus.
Perfect. And it's literally on the form. The next thing we're talking about, flat Jesus. Yes, flat. My kids did flat Jesus.
See, this is why we ask questions.
Yes.
But no, I was telling Mary Ann about how you were talking about pray for people and like where they're at and have the gallery walk. I'm like, that would be amazing. And like a contest, like the most creative, maybe the farthest away. And I'm like, we could incorporate your flat Jesus concept into this as well. I'm like, that would be super fun.
Yes, I love that you're putting all the ideas together. That's great. And I love that you asked the question because I'm confident that there's so much wealth of information in this group already that everybody has ideas to share. Like I am confident of that. Yes, so much. All right. Let's see here. What did I do with my 2? Okay. Well, 2 o'clock. I was waiting for the time to change. Okay, so I would love for at least 2 people or 2 groups to go ahead and look at your sauce and tell us which you choose, and then read your sentence, please. Who will volunteer? What are your communication tools, the tones, and your example message?
To be honest, we got pretty excited about flat Jesus. So we had way too much fun with that part of the conversation.
That's okay. Whoever did the assignment, I'll put my teacher voice on. Who can share their communication tools, the tone that they want to use in their example sentence? Anyone?
I don't know if this is what you want. I just kind of went with it. I
Anything is
put
good.
together what you did with the last one and
Mhm.
my thoughts for this one. So I said, before you head out for your summer adventures, please make a plan for your summer giving. You are important to us and part of our ministry wherever you are. Enjoy God's creation, rest, renew your spirit, and we will be here when you get back. So just that
Lovely,
welcoming and that
lovely.
sweet.
Let's all just give some snaps here for that before we move on. Nice.
But now I want to
Okay.
incorporate flat Jesus into all of that. So
Why not? Why not?
But
what are the communication tools you chose and the tones?
Yeah, storytelling. I want to start storytelling in my congregation. I love the photo gallery, so the flat Jesus and the pictures. I love that idea. When I was at one of my previous congregations, I did a midweek email blurb, and I haven't been doing that since I came here. And I thought, why did I stop that? So I think that'll be another way to just reach people that aren't in the pews and let them know that we're still thinking of them. Social media posts are kind of hit and miss for us, but I love the QR code to a vlog and to do, again, my concern with every other week we're at a different church and only one of the churches has the ability to stream. That means only half the month are people so if I vlog each week, at least to some topic, and have that QR code, one side it can be for giving and the other side it can be to connect with us. So
Love
that's where I'm
that.
going. Yeah.
Wonderful. And your tone sounded encouraging and hopeful and invitational. That was lovely.
Thank you.
Yes, and I think that you did a great job of avoiding all of those. No shame, no scolding, no panic, no guilt, no desperation, no apology. Well done. Well done, Pastor Penny. All right, anyone else want to go?
I have chosen maybe it's the Sunday school art mailings, but I kind of twisted that a little to be kind of making a thank you postcard, something that says something like from the kids, they could hand them out during children's sermon or something, or send them out. Thank you for entrusting your gifts to help us learn about Jesus, go to camp, or vacation Bible school, or something like that.
Nice. Well done. Wonderful. And I'm glad. I just want to share that the Sunday school art, this is an idea that Peace Lutheran Church in Sioux Falls did with our children when they were small. And I loved it so much. They just took pictures of the kids' arts that they did, and sometimes they turned them into magnets. And you'd got to, take a magnet and it had like a message on it, which was really, really sweet. But they used them as postcards most often. And so the kids got other kids' art sent to them in the mail, old-fashioned postcard. And it was like, we can't wait to see you. And they had the kids sign just their first name. And so I remember specifically that our youngest daughter was so thrilled because she got Maggie's. And Maggie was such a good artist. And she was like, I can't wait to go back to church and see Maggie again and tell her I got her postcard. And so, it's great to have the children be the ones that are inviting people to worship too. All right, we're going to move on. I know we could do this the whole time, but we're going to go to number 3, which is the cheese. Okay, the cheese is what we're on here. And the cheese is the steady support. And may I ask you to add that up on the screen, Deacon Aaron? Thank you. And so our cheese is essentially the glue, right? The thing that holds everything together. And these are more examples of ways that we can encourage consistent giving, because really you want consistent automatic giving. It's much easier to track. It's much easier if you're getting funds throughout all 12 months so that you don't have to feel like, oh no, now we have to do the whole guilt trip thing. We don't want you to do that. But sometimes when it gets really bad, it just is this way in which we just we feel like, oh no, what are we going to do? And so all of those negative feelings come out, and that's exactly the opposite of what Pastor Lexi was teaching us this morning. And so we don't want to live in the shame and the guilt. And so some of the connection practices that we can do are weekly summer devotions. And Deacon Aaron shared one of those that you can use on their website. Family worship bags to go. I know a church that instead of doing busy bags, the women of the church, the quilters, put together smaller, about 5x7 size bags to go. And if a congregation is going to be gone that weekend, they set up a time. Say the women are going to be here on Wednesday or whatever day it is. It's actually, this particular church is Tuesday from 6 to 9. And they are at that church from Tuesdays to 6 to 9. And the kids and their parents come and pick up the bags for the weekend if they're going to be gone. And I think one of you said, maybe it was you, Stephanie, I can't remember, a way to connect with the kids when they're not there, or with the families when they go away. This is a great thing because there's, the ladies put in there a fun little treat, of course, a fun little Bible verse. And then the most important thing in there is that, hey, we're with you. Even though you're not with us right now, we're with you. Your church is with you. Your church goes with you wherever you are. And so fun little ways that we can do different things. Photos from the ministry. So a lot of these are another way. We talked about some of the ways that we could do this in the last slide, but this is yet another way. Family worship to go. This is the one that I want to spend time on, okay? The pizza box, yes, I'm enjoying displaying it, also can have a worship to go. So the pizza box could be filled with whatever the scripture is that you're doing for the week. It could be filled with a fun summer one. It could be filled with, this is the prayer for you to say aloud. This is your prayer for when you're roasting marshmallows. This is something that you can do. This is a scavenger hunt that we've created for you from this Bible verse for wherever it is that you are. Multitude of things. And again, another reason for people to come back and pick something up, engage with you, connect with you, and then go on for their weekend. These types of things take effort. However, if a group together forms something like this, you can plan the whole entire summer. Maybe you only do this once a month. Maybe it's June, July, and August. You have, hey, stop into the church and pick up your monthly thing so that you can stay connected with the church. A lake or cabin blessing. What if you wrote a lake or cabin, or pick the thing, maybe it is a snowbird blessing to go with people. What if you jumped on Zoom and you said, tonight we're going to do your blessing. Join us on Zoom from this time to this time. And you actually do a blessing with them for wherever they are. Of course, you want your online worship link, potentially a summer postcard that looks a little different. You could do your short weekly videoed summer check-ins. We have a congregation that does Tuesday Talk, and they do a different thing every single Tuesday, and it only happens in the summer, and so people look forward to it. And they use puppets and all different sorts of stuff to, check in with people. This is the one that I actually meant when I saw the other one, but outdoor worship. Lots of our churches do it. Lots of our churches do it great. I'm going to see if I can push you just a little bit farther. Is there a campground that's close to your church? Is there a place that you know that people gather? Where would that place be? Somebody unmute and tell me. I saw you shaking your head, Marianne, so I thought you had something to say.
Yeah, we have a little park. It's just, I think, blocks away. And we've talked about reserving it like once a month to have worship services there. And I don't remember what else you asked, but We haven't planned it out yet, but it's getting there. Today.
Okay, great. Do people already gather there?
It's a
Thanks,
public
Deacon Aaron.
park, so it's actually right by the lake.
They're fixing it up.
It is going to be renovated, but it's been tabled, so that won't start till probably next summer. But we reached out to one of the members of our praise team who plays guitar. So we're trying to think a little bit out of the box where we can get him to play guitar, and what we're going to do with that. So we actually are going to talk to our council on Friday to see if this is a plan that they would be comfortable going with, and then to see how they would like it executed.
Okay, Lori, thank you so much. Oh, Lori, can I ask you to unmute?
Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We do s'more worship at the retreat center at the lake every summer. We do once a month on a Wednesday night, and do it in the evening and have a campfire and a guitar and music. So it's kind of like a camp theme. And we've done it with the other ELCA church in town together, and it's been a lot of fun, and get some of those people that are at the lake on the weekends. So.
Sure. Wonderful. Those are both really good examples. Now I'm going to just push you a little bit more farther. Okay. What I'm wondering about is how can you be the church with people that have gone away? So if there is a local campground or something like that, what if there wasn't church in the building that day? No church at all, because you're all going to wherever they are. What would that look like? First Lutheran Church in Alexandria, I bet your mind is like, no, we're never, ever, ever, ever doing that. It is possible for you to go where the people are to do the worship. And so just to maybe wonder about that. Yes, Deacon Aaron?
We have a congregation here who most of their members have lake cabins on the same lake. And so they're going to cancel worship in their town, and they're all going to meet at one of their cabins and have worship in their backyard and a day-long barbecue.
Yes, amen. I love that. We are so ingrained to think that only worship can only happen in the building. We can do a special thing somewhere. But we can't actually just not have worship. And so that's lovely. Okay, I can see you want to say something.
Yeah, if you've got a praise band or talented musicians, look into them getting a spot at the county fair or Art in the Park or whatever your town festival is. And then inviting your congregation members, even if it's on a Saturday, like, hey, this weekend our worship is, everybody go to Potato Days or whatever. Whatever your event, and then your church, like doing an hour of the entertainment at these different fairs and festivals.
Yes. Thank you so much. Lovely. Go ahead.
I just had an idea of I know there's two families in my church that own campgrounds. So that would be just having service there. We would provide a service to their campground and support their campground.
Absolutely. And of course, we're talking about stewardship, but we're talking also about connection with people. And so if people are unwilling to do automatic giving, if they're unwilling, well, you have to keep the connection with them in other ways. And these are other ways to do that, to keep that connection. Of course, we want to focus on how it is that we can do automatic bank withdrawal, right? We want that's important. Online giving in whatever way your church uses, mailing envelopes before vacation, all those types of things. But I think that the connection piece is far more important than being able to see people in their eyes, being able to connect them with whatever it is that you're doing, and being able to be the cheese that holds it all together. So I will trust that Marianne will tell Stephanie all about Flat Jesus. And it sounds like the majority of folks already did, but go ahead and Google it if you would like. I would love to know what your consistency plan is for this summer. So this summer, we will keep people connected by. So go ahead and do the same thing and check the things that would work for your church, your people. Check the boxes. You probably already did that as we were working along. Oh, look at you. Yep, I see you're getting it done, Lori. Well done. And then who needs to receive this connection? This is where I want you to actually take a little bit of time to write down some names. Whether you are a 500 church worshiping community on a weekend or you are a 12 worshiping community on a weekend, who are the people that you just really recognize are absent at whatever season it is? And they might be intentionally absent, like snowbirds, right? They might be younger families. They might be elders that just simply can't go out anymore. But I put this in here because I want you to, every single time you're doing some sort of stewardship planning, that this is not left out. It is important that you create space at the table, that the chair that is empty, people know who it is. So Zion Warroad, who would you name for people that you know for sure are going to be gone but need the connection?
Well, for sure, all our snowbirds that head south in the wintertime. And we know who those are because we celebrate them when they come back here in June. I think it's June 7th. We have a pie social for them when they come back.
Mm-hmm.
And so we definitely know who they are. And it's we turn it into quite a celebration for them. And
good.
So yeah, we take their returning as quite a triumph to the church, you know, and show them how special they are to us, and kind of make them realize how important they are to the ministry here at Zion. And so
okay,
and
thank you.
Considering summer and the Wednesday people, we are planning a little bit of programming Wednesday evenings in June, and I'm thinking some kind of direct contact and invitation to particular people might help them feel as though, oh yeah, this is for us. We are not forgotten just because we worship Wednesday and nothing happens Wednesdays in the summer.
Right. So for your church, I hear snowbirds and Wednesday people. How about other churches? Who are the groups of people that you need to specifically make intentional connection with?
My confirmation parents.
Confirmation parents. Okay, write them down. Who else?
I'm sorry, I just came back into the conversation.
Yeah, we're talking about who are the people that we need to make sure that we are connected with at whatever season it is. Yep.
Sunday school I thought families. That's what you were doing, and I would suggest for our congregation, anybody under 50.
Okay, so people under 50. So now you're giving yourself really good information for your plan. Anyone else want to throw out who they need to be focusing on connection with in the down months, whatever those months are?
Our Sunday school families.
Okay, Sunday school families. Okay. Okay. Great. Okay, now this is what we're going to do. You're doing step 1, 2, and 3 together. Okay. So step one was your crust. You named the reality that was hard. Okay. You named what possibly was suffering, something that needed to get paid for that didn't, and you named your why. Then step two was your sauce, and you named your message, what it was that you wanted people to know. And number three is the cheese that holds it all together, your consistent encouragement, okay? And that is, I need to change the heading on that. Sorry about that. Who are the people? Okay, so right now you have your reality. Can you, Deacon Aaron, would you mind putting this in the chat? You named your reality, what continues to still need to get paid for, and why it matters. And then you named the message that you want them to hear and who the message goes to. Okay, so you're writing your plan. Okay, this is step one, step two, step three that you're putting together. Would you like to do it in breakout rooms or individually? Raise your hand if you want to do it in breakout rooms. Nobody. Okay, let's take 5 minutes. Okay, does anyone want to share what you have so far? Anyone? You're just putting all your work together into one good pitch.
I'll share ours. So we're really proud of the summer worship that we put on, and we think it's a great vibe for young people. But so our crust is that we want to really target our middle and high school students and their parents, families. And one initiative that we already did for that is that the confirmation students who have mentors, they've been challenged to sign up to help at summer worship with their mentor at least once. So that's one piece of it. But the new thing that we're talking about is the sauce is the frequent communication via social media, and the actual product that we want to do are like short viral videos that show the fun perks of worshiping outside. So definitely like someone in shade sitting in their lawn chair sipping on coffee. And then maybe another one is going to be, we serve mini donuts or donut holes this year. And Maria's husband, interestingly, has a skill for juggling. So we're going to do a viral video of him juggling the donuts. And just doing silly little like super viral short videos to promo worship, and then trying to get those on Instagram and the type of thing that kids might share via Snap, because that is how those kids communicate now. They don't use Facebook. Like as much as I dislike Snap and it's not a great healthy situation, that is our reality.
Right? Yes. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else want to share? Just the fact that you're thinking about this and you're doing this hard work, this is the work that nobody wants to do or does. So the fact that we're spending all this time processing it and talking about it and trying to even make it more comfortable to just have conversation is huge. Anyone else? I'm not going to force anyone, I promise. This is pretty practical stuff. So I'm going to trust that if you want to go ahead and put some toppings on your pizza, some of you might not like toppings, but if you do want toppings, guess what? You get to choose them. They are on the next one. And so you get to choose whether it's of all the things that we heard today, what might work for you. And so feel free to go and do that together, and then you can add your toppings down at the bottom and you can practice writing again. And then the next step is, of course, the pizza delivery. Is the bake time. And so put some dates down. Put some dates on the calendar that says, you know what, I'm gonna intentionally work on this time. The questions on here are what we need to do, who will help, when will it happen, and what help is needed from different outside people. So you can write your first step, your second step, all the things, the dates, however it wants. You can tell that this is the first time that I've used this because there's all sorts of errors. So thank you for your grace. I appreciate it. And then step 6 is delivery. How is it that you are going to say these things out loud, that you are going to actually do the follow throughs? And the very bottom, I kind of think is fun. And you could just cut this out. It's got all of the 6 steps and what will work for you. Now, if you want to make this work for you and your stewardship team or your people, your pizza box that is here in the Synod office, and I will send some with Deacon Aaron if anybody wants them, has all the sections, okay? It has all of the questions that you were asked in here to make it super easy for you to do this activity with other people. You can ask the questions. It's not long and drawn out like we just did. That's kind of a teach the teacher type of thing, but they're just quick little questions in the envelopes. You pop them out, you ask the question, and you put them in the pizza box. Okay, this is just a way for you to try to do something different with other people that did not attend with us today. Okay, if you want that, let us know and we'll make sure that you get it. It'll be available at one of the Synod offices. Let us pray. Good and gracious God, you are faithful in every season. You are with us in the busy months, the quiet months, when the sanctuary is full, when we're scattered at the lake, when we're here, there, and everywhere. You are with us indeed. Give us courage to tell the truth without fearing it. Give us the wisdom to plan ahead for these things, for the things that we know that are coming. Give us the commitment to connect with people no matter where they are in this world that you've given us. Give us generous hearts. Give us steady hands to make the plans and do the things. Give us hopeful spirits because we trust in you and we know that you are with us no matter what the budget line looks like or the bank account shows. Good and gracious God, thank you. Thank you for all that you've given us, and let us learn the generosity that you've taught us. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, Deacon Aaron. Now, Deacon Aaron, I'm going to ask you to please unmute.
So let me try to multitask. I want to put, so feel free to, I'm just logging into my Tidely so I can show you some of the things. But I want to prompt this by saying I'm not going to give a presentation in that kind of sense we've been doing, but I want to figure out what questions you have, what you need to know about online giving. So we know kind of how to frame this next conversation, which will only be maybe 15 minutes or so. I plan to be done by 3. So either drop in the chat or unmute. What are the things you're wanting to know, needing to know, wondering about when it comes to online giving?
I need to know everything.
Okay, you got it. We may not get to everything today, but we'll cover the basics.
Thank you.
What else?
There you go. How to get started.
How to get started. Yep.
Yeah.
I would even say finding those resources to elaborate and encourage online giving. That way you don't have to worry about bringing your checkbook, bringing cash, whatever the case is. We actually started this, I think, a couple of years ago, and we have these just green flyers. I know someone had mentioned about chips that they put into the offering plate. We just have green flyers that we either flash our lady who's doing offering or just slip them in there saying that we're participating in online giving. But just another way to encourage those who aren't currently giving, and maybe exactly how Marianne said, how to get started if you are not currently giving, and how easy it potentially can be.
Excuse me. What else?
I'll add to that as well, because I'm a very talkative person. I'm also gonna say, if we can maybe get like flyers, or I mean, we already have a QR code, but even just something that is eye-catching, that will, oh, hey, yeah, what is this about? And kind of short, sweet, simple, right to the point, where we can even present that conversation to actually happen between members of our congregation. And that way, if they need to know more, perfect, ask so-and-so, or however that needs to be. But a nice way, I know our treasurer has access to Vanco, because we do use Vanco. And as I was looking, because it let me snoop a little bit, but like during Easter, there were handouts, flyers, all sorts of things to get people encouraged to do more online giving. So even if there's something like that for like a special season, whether it's fall, Christmas, Easter, where we can, as even secretary side, working online side, make that extra push and kind of get it in the back of people's minds before the holiday even starts.
We have more of just a general question about Venmo. And if any of your churches are using that. We use it pretty faithfully and successfully for paying for our Wednesday night meals. And families really like that, because increasingly people don't travel with credit cards or checks or cash, but they're very used to using Venmo. But for giving during worship, our financial coordinator has been hesitant to encourage its use for for regular donations, because the tracking on the church end of it is not very IRS friendly, if that makes sense. And so I was just wondering if anyone had good experiences with how they've treated that, because we certainly don't want to cut off a really solid income stream from that generation. I think it's especially useful for infrequent givers, who maybe, like, the best example I can think of is a family who like goes here, they're members here, but they just come on Christmas or they just come on Easter, and they want to just drop a one-time gift. So for them, the IRS part isn't really maybe as important, because they're not going to give enough to have to report it. So any advice that any of you would have, or experiences you have, on how to better utilize Venmo?
I can just say I've only had one conversation about this, so it's not very big. But what I'm told is, if you come up with a saying that needs to go in the for subject line, so you do your Venmo and you're giving it to, and you get to write a memo, essentially. You need to know your EIN number, and you need to be able to broadcast that. So when the Venmo goes up, you have just a little blurb underneath it that says, please include this number in your memo. And that way you can track it for your giving. And if they just print that screen, so can they.
Yeah, thanks, Rob.
Also,
I have not.
We did send in a request to Venmo, by the way. So
what's that?
To ask if we sent a request into Venmo to ask them how we could, and we're right now in the help desk tracking. So I'll let you know what we hear back.
Yeah, because I think you renamed a really critical kind of roadblock, is that even if you have online giving, if it's a one-time person, they're sitting in worship, they still have to pull out their QR, they scan the QR code, they still have to pull out their credit card, put their credit card information in. And so Venmo is a way around it, but I haven't heard a good workaround. So I'll be curious, Pastor Rebel, what you find out, because I know that that's been a challenge. So I don't have a good answer for that, but hopefully Pastor Rebel will have an answer one way or the other.
Because the important part is making sure that it's not for a good or service. And when we have the same Venmo account that's being used to pay for goods and services,
versus just general giving. We don't really know a way around that without having two separate Venmo accounts, but that is really sounding like a pain in the tush. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
like your Venmo.
Let's follow up on that.
Okay.
Yeah, now I'm curious because I think it is a roadblock, right? That pulling out your credit card. So I'm gonna share my screen and show you a couple of things. And again, I will make kind of a one-page handout with some like basic 101s. You're not gonna learn fully how to set up online giving in the next 10 minutes. It's really something that I will say it's easier if like you wanting to set up online giving. I am happy to come and talk through that and how kind of navigate that. And both of the online giving companies that I will tell you about are really great. Like they help churches set up online giving and they will walk you through to get those things set up. But Rebel and I are both also resources to do that on the technical side of things.
Can I mention something that you don't have to pay for? The services you don't have to pay for?
Yeah. Yep.
You can go to your bank and they have a pay place and you enter the church's name and the amount you want to give. You can either set it up so that you put in when to give, or you personally just go into the bank, or they'll send it monthly and there's no charge for that to the church or to pay for some other service.
Yeah. So I think that I think there is probably a generation that will be really effective for. Exactly. No, exactly. Right. Go to your bank and ask them to set up an ACH. Brilliant. Right. I don't have a bank.
You don't have to go ask somebody. You just do it.
She has hers set up on bill pay.
Yeah. It's bill pay.
What's that?
She has hers set up on bill pay.
Yeah.
So she just goes in, clicks, I want X amount of dollars pulled, however often, and they just cut a check, drop it in the mail.
Yeah. So I think I will say that the caveat to online giving is finding what are the ways to automate giving, right? Regularize giving in different ways for different generations. So I think, right, the older generation is going to your bank, setting up bill pay or ACH.
Yeah.
Is brilliant. Say before you leave, go to your bank and set up your bill pay. And they're happy to do that. For folks, right, who online giving is more of a thing and they're natural, maybe more techie and they're tech savvy or native to that kind of tech. I'll say native to tech. Right. So there's the two main companies that the ELCA partners with is Vanco and Tidely. I will say I know more about Tidely than Vanco. I will say that. But I'm assuming this is true for Vanco as well as Tidely. So for Tidely, where's my Tidely demo page? Tidely setting up online giving is free. You can set up online giving for free. And there's an option when you donate, so you set it up and I can type in, I've logged into my account for the Eastern Dakota Synod, and I can cover the fees, right? So I'm going to cover the fees, and so there's no cost to the church for the online giving. If I don't cover the fees, right, you pay a portion of what that cost is. But we have Tidely and Vanco. So the give, and so I'll say, right, I don't think we're trying to sell anyone on why we should do online giving, but I'll give this story. I was in church on Sunday, and I have an account with my congregation. I log in with Vanco for my congregation, and I have automatic payments set up. And so on Sunday, we were told that next Sunday is a World Hunger Appeal. I'm not going to be in worship on Sunday because I'm in other congregations most Sundays. So I pulled out my phone during the offering time, logged into my account, made a one-time gift for World Hunger so that I made sure I got that offering in to be part of that. And so I could, because I had that account set up, I could easily do that. And so one once you've set up online giving, thinking about how do we keep folks engaged, is set up a bring your phone, and we're all during offering going to open up our phones and create the accounts, right? And log in, and we're going to do it together. If you want to set up online giving, we're going to do it together. So that you're not, so they're to remove those barriers for online giving. So for those who are like, how do we even start this online giving? Your first thing you're going to do is you're going to just go to Vanco and Tidely, and you're going to tool around on these websites, and you're going to watch a demo, and they're going to walk you through it. And that's going to be a much easier way than me trying to walk through how to set up online giving. I'll say that. I'm going to pause. What other questions? I really wish Tidely was here, but they're not. So we're just going to keep stumbling upon it. Other questions? Rebel, what's helpful for me to talk about?
Well, I think that we learned that there's 7 different contexts in the room, and so that's the tricky part.
Yeah.
I think wherever you are, either ask what you need from what Deacon Aaron has asked, or if we can direct you to someone. I think that we have a contact, right, Deacon Aaron, that we can connect people with. And so that's one option. Is there anything else that you can think specifically that you might have a question about? I will say,
I want to connect back to some of the stuff that Pastor Lexi did in her morning stuff. So if we're going to assume, right, that you've set up online giving, your congregation now has Vanco or Tidely. Okay, we've crossed that barrier. That's a bigger barrier, but we're going to assume that you've done that now. Now is the opportunity to do that. I think it was First Lutheran in Alex, and they're not here anymore, to say, how do we continue to leverage that and introduce that in worship in regular and consistent ways, right? And so on the offering slide, we say, thanks to our offering, here's the QR code. Here's a way to set up automated giving, and you start introducing that into your newsletters and your bulletin insert and your worship slide and your announcements to start that becoming the natural part of the regular part of your offering time, right? So that if there's a QR code on the screen, it's not weird that I'm pulling out my phone during worship, right? I'm not actually texting. It normalizes that culture of, oh yeah, I'm going to do that, make my gift. Yeah, Lexi.
Can I throw in 2 things?
Please.
One that I've seen in other congregations is if you don't have screens, or sometimes it's hard to like zoom in, I have seen churches put the QR code as like a little, like a sticker or adhesive to the back of the pews. And so it's already there, which is another way to do it. One of the other things is check into what your income. Some of you might already have Vanco and not realize that you have the like online giving part of Vanco. We used Vanco, and then we're like, oh, we should do this online giving thing, and did all the like figuring out how to do it, and then realized that we already had Vanco and we had that side of it. So check into what you're using and see if that also has a way to do it. But Vanco works really well because you can make different tiles. And so people can click on, oh, I am, giving to the bathroom fundraiser. I am donating for the spaghetti feed. This is for pizza on Wednesday night. And when the statement then prints out, it's able to say, this is what it's connected to. So check into that. We've had really good luck with that. I love putting the QR code by the pizza. We just have a basket. That's brilliant. And I'm going to steal that. So, but yeah, Vanco's helpful when it comes to that too. That's been our experience, but there's my 2 throw-ins.
Yeah. So here's what both with Vanco and Tidely, when you set it up, you can embed a page on your website, right? And here's the tiles that it looks like when you go to Vanco. This is Peace in Fargo. And you're like, oh, I want to donate to the neighborhood church. this, this, and this. So there's an embed code into your website. There is a way to have a giving kiosk where you could have a tablet outside your sanctuary and have that giving page set up, and it would look more like this on your website. They both have options of text to give. I don't know that that's an effective thing for for some of our congregations, but there's text to give. The other pieces of this that you can tie into this is it also comes with you can have event registration, and then it becomes an online payment, and they're tied together.
I have a question. Our church, our parish has does this have to be, I guess my question is, does this have to be tied to one checking account, or can it be tied to several checking accounts?
Several. So you'll see, I'm logged into so this is, I have an account logged in for the Eastern North Dakota Synod. And I have my debit card linked. I have a Visa card linked. I could add my bank. I could also do Google Pay, or if I'm on my phone, I can do Apple Pay. So you can store cards just like you would do for any account that you have multiple credit cards stored in your DoorDash like I do. So you can log multiple credit cards. You have multiple credit cards stored in your DoorDash too? Yeah. Yeah. So I will say this, getting it set up is easier than you think it is. The Tidely and Vanco, they do this. This is what they do. They work with churches all over the world. They will walk you through this. They will help you set it up. They will teach you all the things. There are videos and demos. And so I'm less worried about the how do we get this set up part, because that sounds like the hardest part. It's actually the easiest. It's going back to Pastor Lexi's stuff to say, and Pastor, how do we integrate that into the language and conversation of what we're doing? Creating a QR code. Free QR code maker, Canva can make it. Having a stewardship talk that says, I've signed up for online giving. Here's why. The last Sunday before people leave for the summer, to say, we're having a online giving tutorial in the narthex with the donuts, and we'll teach you how to set up your ACH. Getting your high schoolers, middle schoolers to help, right? Teach the folks how to set up their phone, or set up the thing on their phone. When we introduced online giving at our Synod Assembly, we had a bank of computers, and people during the offering time could go back, and they didn't have to have their own device. And we had people sitting there with them. So it's as much about stewardship and generosity as it is about hospitality, and lowering the barriers for folks to access the things, if those are the barriers, which if our congregations are older, sometimes those are barriers. You're muted, Rebel. Yeah, I know.
Thank you all so much for being here. Thanks for hanging on for the extra two. And yes, the answer is yes to everything. So anything that anybody wanted, we will get them to you. Any final words from anybody?
So you're getting us a copy of the Flat Jesus?
Yep.
Okay.
You get the flat. I have a list. Yes, you get Flat Jesus.
We'll just
Lori gets the messages option.
We're going to teach him how to put a QR code on and give our online giving.
Yes. And again, both Pastor Rebel and I, we're in different synods, but making QR code, I mean, both of us can do these things in our sleep. We're both happy to do this for either synod. So give us a call, say, I just need you to make me a QR code because I can't figure it out. I will make you a QR code.
Perfect.
We were just commenting how awesome it is that even though we are in different synods, it is so great to work together and so great to pick each other's minds and really, well, this is working for you, this is working for me. It's fabulous. Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it.
Because it's great to be church together. Amen.
Yes.
Deacon Aaron and I are trying to start a thing.
I love it. I love it.
Right.
Bye, everyone. God bless
All
you.
right.
Take care.
Rebel, stay on for 1 minute.
Okay.
Thanks.
I'm just gonna shut down some
and stop the recording.